The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing.
Live high above the USA International Speedway in Lakeland, Florida, we say good afternoon, sim racing fans, and welcome to LSRTV's coverage of the Championship Esports Association New Year's Street Stock Nationals here at USA, right here on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. My name's Cisco Scaramuza, alongside me, Chris Murdoch, here to bring you all the action. And Chris, 2 heat races, 1 feature, 200 laps is going to be that race. But first up, we got 2 heat races to determine what the field's going to look like for this final event. But these are the street stocks at USA. This is something we've all driven at one point or another. This is the rookie package here on iRacing. So at the very least, everybody in this field has had some experience in this. I'm sure we all have a few horror stories back from rookies, but going back to the basics here on New Year's.
Yeah, and what a better way to do it than in the CEA Championship Esports Association. They have a stacked field tonight. If these people, if there's anybody that knows how to get around a track in a street stock, it'll be these people. And as you mentioned, 2 heat races tonight, and then that 200 lap main feature. So it's going to be an action-packed night of racing. Top 15 events. It looks like we have about 12 people registered that took the grid for heat number 1, but heat number 2 is still out in the open. Take the top 15 cars, but these guys will set the inside row.
Yeah, and it's going to be a tight battle here, as these cars, generally when you run them at USA, it's going to be a battle for who has that bottom line. It's very rare to see that outside line actually come in, so there's going to be a lot of barging through, I'm sure. Plenty of contact here tonight, but as we mentioned, 2 heat races going to make up the event schedule tonight. You're going to be running, this first one's going to start in just about 5 minutes or so, and then after that, there will be one at what we assume will be 4:48 p.m. later on the East Coast, and that'll be the second heat race. But both these races, 50 laps here on this 0.75 mile oval, and we mentioned, Chris, this is the track that everybody owns, everybody's driven it, even your top stars on the roadside, they've been to USA in the past. This track, very well known today, of course, not in existence in its current state, but this is a track that for a long time was one of the storied short tracks in Florida, and alongside names like New Smyrna and other tracks in the region. What sets this track apart, Chris?
I don't know. You mentioned flashing back to the rookie days. Well, this was actually one of my first wins on the iRacing service here, Cisco. So this track, you can really dive it down into the corners and kind of make it stick. So be looking for drivers to try to take control of that inside line, because you can really push these street stocks to the limit. And this track is so amazing, even though it's not, in real life in its current state. This track still holds its own on the iRacing circuit, and it's honestly one of my favorite places to come to during short tracks.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll be returning here before too long for the USRB&C Lawn and Landscaping Truck Series. These guys going to run here later on during the season. We'll look forward to that. But of course, USA and street stocks go together very well, and very a lot of different times here on the sim. And of course, this being the paved version, there's also the dirt version of this as well, with the dirt street stock and the dirt USA International Speedway. So there's even another version of that you can try out for free on iRacing. And this is a track that does share a little bit of similarity with its sister track in New Smyrna, but it reminds me a lot of a Thompson, Chris, because of just how this track is laid out. It's very much, it's 14 degrees of banking, but it really doesn't feel like it. It feels like a very, very flat track.
It does 3/4 mile, 14 degrees of banking. It's a very, very long track with those long straightaways, especially here with these street stocks. You can really push it there into the corner, as I mentioned, but you're right. It does feel kind of like a flat track. You don't really get that sense of banking in these cars. You can really turn it around, and it really takes a lot to get these cars to turn in the corner. They can be really, really tight, so it'll be all about entry going into these corners.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think you have one up on me because I was never able to grab a win at USA. I had to resort to Charlotte to be able to get my first win in the street stocks way back when in the dark years of 2014. So I know you have a little bit, obviously, plenty more racing experience than I do as a part of Dead Zone Racing, everything like that. And tracks like this, Chris, you know, this is a track that not many on the top levels of iRacing will go back to. And we mentioned, well, it's a rookie track, obviously, and it's not part of the NASCAR schedule. But for these short track guys, even then, it doesn't have quite the same luster as like a track like Myrtle Beach or a track like South Boston or something like that. Part of which, well, it doesn't exist anymore. It was demolished, or it was defunct in 2008, demolished in 2012. So not quite the staying power as some of the other tracks. But beyond that, this track, of course, means so much to us here on iRacing, but it still doesn't, you know, it doesn't compare. But I think here on iRacing, Chris, it's that ability for it to be that free track and one of the first tracks you visit, I think has raised its status just in iRacing in general. Reminds me kind of the same treatment that Okayama's gotten, because Okayama, well, it may not be a premier circuit in racing in general, because it's on iRacing, because it's a free track that you start on, everybody's driven there. And, you know, regardless of your feelings on it, you still count it as one of the first tracks you've driven on the sim.
And I really think you've hit the nail right on the head. It's a very, very special track just because of that reason. And I think that's what the guys at CEA have realized, that everybody's been here. Everybody knows USA. And like you mentioned, it's kind of raised its status. So it is a very special race, a very New Year's race to ring in the new year for these nationals. So it'll be interesting to see all those drivers because, you know, like you mentioned, Okayama, that's another special track on the roadside that gets a lot of attention. And I think these guys realize that this track still has that potential to be a very, very good short track.
And it is a very, very good short track, as we're about to find out in a few moments' time. But qualifying all done for this evening, so we're going to take a look at your LSRTV starting grid here for heat race number 1 of the CEA New Year's Street Stock Nationals. Tanner Cook, of course, got the pole, and there was some drama because his teammate Jacob Porter is going to start on the pole for the second race, but Tanner leading off here in the 96 P number 1. Gabriel Mauricio is going to start second. Third going to go to Paul Henley. Fourth to Justin Egan. Fifth going to go to Garrett Conrath. Sixth to Robert Fletcher. Seventh going to go to Timothy Adams. Eighth going to go to Randy Oakham. Ninth to Robert Formwald. And Brian Simpson rounds out your top 10, with Richard Reagan Jr. and Trent Goodrow rounding out your 12-car field here, Chris. Some names that I recognize from other CEA series like Myrtle Beach and the Champion and the Cars Esport Tour. So we know there's plenty of veterans in this field to the short tracks. Maybe not necessarily to LSR, but plenty of short track veterans out there.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned a few names. Tanner Cook being on the pole, I recognize him. Richard Reagan Jr. holding his own in the Myrtle Beach Speedway. Some days he will be starting towards the back of the field. But as you mentioned, all these drivers know how to drive short track cars and short tracks in general. They'll be able to work their way around. So I assume that Heat 1 is going to be just a great race here tonight.
Yeah, we'll be starting out in the afternoon here, and we'll have to see how the time progresses later on. And just past 4 o'clock afternoon, so a little bit different of a time, but that's because we're on the weekend and it allows for these kind of race times, because normally we're in the evenings for events on CEA, you know, 8-9 p.m. on the East Coast. It's a little bit different of a time change as well, but we thank you all for tuning in on this Sunday afternoon for a Sunday matinee racing action here on LSR TV. Pace car drops to the inside, and field in the control, Tanner Cook in his 96. Blacked out street stock, green flag gonna be in the air this time. We're racing from USA International Speedway.
going down into turn 1. The 44 Mauricio didn't really get the start that he wanted to. That's going to open up the inside for Paul Henley and Garrett Conrath to go through. Conrath getting a little bit out of shape going through turns 1 and 2. That's going to allow Mauricio to fall back in line, but move that 16 of Paul Henley into second place as Tanner Cook got an amazing restart and will lead the opening lap here at USA.
Yeah, an amazing job by the 96 of Tanner Cook, and now single file for the most part behind him. A little bit of a battle actually kicking off for third. It's going to be that yellow Pennzoil machine of Mauricio up on the top side, under threat from Conrath on the bottom. The looks like a Monte Carlo down there. We'll have to double check on the lights. Yeah, it is a Monte Carlo. It looks like from the 80s, but he's able to make the pass on Robert Fletcher and Mauricio, and Fletcher just kind of followed through on Conrath. A little bit of a tap there to the number 9 by the total machine, the 71. So Fletcher looking for some here as well. As meanwhile, Justin Egan is going to jump to the inside of Mauricio, and he'll make the pass happen. The Firebird right behind him of Randy Yoakum trying to get through here as well.
And that will just show you how important that bottom line here is at USA. You saw so many people get by Mauricio, and as soon as he got the hole, he yanked that wheel to the left and stuck it on the yellow line. He was not going to let Randy Yoakum get that same luxury. He dropped so many positions from 2nd to 6th now, Cisco, as he's trying to work his way through 3 and 4. Meanwhile, just in front of him, the 71 of Fletcher going to go at Conrath coming out of the turn number 4. And Fletcher getting a little bit out of shape. Still going to be there on the inside of Conrath, though, just by a little bit. He's going to even him up now going through turn 1 and 2. Going to be side by side going down the back straightaway.
Yeah, side by side continuing into turn number 3 this time, and Fletcher using that bottom side to his advantage. The 9 stuck up on the outside. Freight trains already forming here at USA, and Justin Egan looks to carry it through here as they head down the front straightaway. The City Chevrolet jumps to the inside of the number 9, and he'll make the pass as well. And you can see Mauricio trying to line up and be a part of that freight train here and maybe try and get to the inside of Garrett Conrath. But yeah, as you mentioned, Tanner Cook out to 1.8 second lead at the moment, and looks like, yes, the 9 will be able to drop in behind, or right in front of Mauricio and behind Justin Egan here. So single file once again through your field here. Lap 6 is in the books here as they're working on lap number 7. Paul Henley's got to worry about to the inside going Robert Fletcher down into turn number 3. This time a little bit of a tap there from Justin Egan, but he'll be able to hold on to it here through 3 and 4 this time. And yep, he will clear him, and Egan gonna follow through just like he did on the number 9 of Garrett Conrath. Justin Egan goes past the 16 of Paul Henley.
And how about that 71 of Robert Fletcher, starting 6, already going to be up to second place there, Cisco, on lap 8. So Tanner Cook, albeit he has a 2.3 second gap over the 71 right now, he might be kissing that goodbye, but just look at that battle for second. Justin Egan has been following Fletcher through the entire time, but he gave him a little bit of bump going through 3 and 4, and you can see how it upset the car coming out of those corners, but he is all over the back bumper of that 71 machine, so I'm going to be looking to them to try to catch up to that 96 of Cook and make this a battle for the lead.
Yeah, and Cook still out to a huge gap. It's now 2.6 seconds because, of course, second and third were battling, and that allowed Tanner to just drive away from the field side by side. Meanwhile, Randy Yoakum involved with that, along with the 16 of Henley. Yoakum going to dive it to the inside this time, and it's Richard Reagan Jr. behind him, the number 40 machine, sending it in, and not quite able to go anywhere right now is Richard Reagan Jr. He's kind of stuck behind Randy Yoakum, as Yoakum still trying to make that pass on the 0 machine of the 0 number 16, I should say, of Paul Henley. Let's not try and get too confused here. But Richard Reagan Jr. now looking to the outside, possibly, of Randy Yoakum, but he's going to follow through. I think a little bit of a cutback there, a little bit of a tap to the number 4 of Randy Yoakum, but that's the battle back around 6. And you can also see Vormwald starting to make his name known into this race as he's going to jump to the inside. Not quite a Richard Reagan Jr. Wasn't able to make the pass happen. Meanwhile, battle for second. Justin Egan down on the inside of Robert Fletcher across the start-finish line. Lap number 11 in the books that time.
Gonna clear the 71 of Fletcher, but look at Fletcher get the run out of turns number 2. Not gonna quite be there at the 56 as there's a wreck on the front stretch.
It's Randy Yoakum, the number 4, got turned around in turns 1 and 2. We'll take a second look. I saw it out of the corner of our picture there, and it looked like the 4 just got sent around. We'll have to see what happened. Take a wide chopper angle here and see what happened.
Yeah.
Replay up on your screen, and survey says Richard Reagan just got it in a little too down on the flat. I think it just clipped him there, Chris.
Yeah, I think Richard Reagan Jr. in that 40 just got a little bit too impatient, waiting behind that 4 of Randy Yoakum. Got it in there a little bit too deep. I said you can get it in there and make it stick. Well, he got it under the yellow line. You can see those 2 tires under that yellow line, and that always upsets the car here, Cisco. And he just got into Randy Yoakum and sent him around to bring out the first caution of heat number 1.
Yeah, first caution out here from USA International Speedway. Got a good amount of racing, about 12, 13 laps in before that first caution flew. So we under our first pace lap, and I know Tanner Cook definitely did not want to see that, because he was out to nearly a 3-second lead at times there in that first run, Chris, and that's all gone at this point. And I'd say Justin Egan and Robert Fletcher, the 2 guys who have been making mincemeat of this heat, they've been driving through pretty much everybody, and they're now right behind Tanner Cook. Egan starting 4th and Fletcher starting 6th coming through the field.
Yeah, I think if you're the 96 of Tanner Cook, that is really the last thing you wanted to see here, Cisco, because as you mentioned, the 56 and the 71 really blazing through this field, getting up there to 2nd and 3rd respectively within the first 10 laps. So Tanner Cook is going to have a full plate ahead of him on this restart to try to get around. Meanwhile, other drivers that have lost positions, Gabriel Mauricio started 2nd, dropped all the way back to the 5th place position due to being on that high line, and then Paul Henley in that 16 started 3rd, is just behind Mauricio in 6th. So you can just see how unfortunate getting up on that high side can be here at USA, and how deadly it can be, because you can go from first to worst in a matter of seconds.
Absolutely. They're beginning to double up a little bit here, but lights should go out this time by the start finish line. It'll be your top 5 of Cook, Egan, Fletcher, Conrath, and Mauricio. That'll be your top 5. So Tanner Cook continuing to lead the field under these pace laps, and this has been a Tanner Cook as of late, Chris, that we've seen very close to being able to pull off some wins. He got one in the Myrtle Beach Simulation Series a couple weeks ago, but apart from that has been close but no cigar for the 96. I know he's going to be hungry to win this race, get into that A main, and of course have a little bit of competition with his teammate Jacob Porter as well. So the 96 hungry tonight, wants to take that Junior Motorsports Street Stock to victory lane.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, everybody in this heat does advance. This race just sets the inside row, so I cannot wait between that battle of Tanner Cook and Jacob Porter, because they always know how to drive these short tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. Pace cars in this time, and Tanner Cook going to lead the field around turn number 4. Green flag back in the air. We're back racing from USA. Tanner Cook out to about a car length or so in front of Justin Egan. Egan going to drop in and in front of the 71 of Fletcher, and it's going to be single file through your top 3 at the moment. First battle side by side. It's going to be Paul Henley in the 16 up on the top side. He'll clear the number 10 of Vormwald there and make it single file through your entire pack as they head through 3 and 4.
Yeah, the 16 of Henley was wasting no time clearing that 10 of Wormwald, made quick work of it. Now he's got to have his sights set on Gabriel Mauricio in that 44, because that battle did cost him a little bit of time. He's back about half a car length to a car length now, not getting the run that the 42 did, or 44 I should say, did off the corner. Meanwhile, just up at the front, the 56 of Egan making it a full mirror in that Tanner Cook machine, because he was all over the back bumper of that machine trying to get there in turns 3 and 4, looking low towards 1 and 2, not going to quite be there, but he is there trying to make the move on Tanner Cook.
Yeah, Justin Egan made the freight train work very well in his favor early on in this race, continuing to do so. Then the 56 through turns 3 and 4 this time, all in the rearview mirror of Tanner Cook in that 96 across the start finish line. Now lap number 19 going to go in the books this time, and we're just about 31 laps or so away from the end of this first heat. The 56 continuing to stalk Tanner Cook as they come off turn number 2, and Egan's doing a very good job of just being in the mirror and waiting to find a mistake, because I think unless he forces one here, which he's trying to do a little bit here, Chris, with the front bumper, he's just waiting for the 96 to make that mistake and jump to the inside, because he knows if he tries to get a little too physical, it might end up like how Richard Reagan's incident happened earlier on. I think Egan being very patient early on.
Yeah, and noticing, like you said, he's trying to force the issue, trying to give that 96 machine the bump to get him out of shape, get him off that yellow line, but he's doing it in the wrong place. He needs to do it in the corner, not out of the corner, because it's allowing Tanner Cook to get away from him, so to speak. It is upsetting the 96, yes, but it's not drawing that 56 in closer. It's kind of just like a bump draft, so to speak, to get that 96 car out of the corner, so he's really got to wait for that mistake if he wants to get by that 96 machine, and it could happen because the 56 is applying the pressure, but just behind him, the 71 of Robert Fletcher has reeled those two back in, so we might be able to see a 3-car battle for the lead here very soon, Cisco.
And Fletcher did a very good job, Chris, of just kind of following through on the freight trains that were being set up for him. He was able to just stick to his line and just make passes even when he himself wasn't kind of initiating that pass. And also keep in mind, look, Garrett Conrath at number 9, he was on the freight train not that long ago. He's also found his way into this battle. Meanwhile, there's a little bit of a battle around Paul Henley in that 16. It's the number 5, and he dove it in a little bit. That's Trent Goodrow, and he dived it in a little bit there on the number 16 of Henley. So that got real sketchy there for about a moment. But the 5 able to drop back in line, and you see kind of bump draft very similar to what we're seeing in the lead right now. And Trent Goodrow trying to get past Paul Henley here, and that's for 7th place. Chris.
Yeah, just as we realize that, you know, we have been focusing on the league quite a bit here, Cisco. We cannot forget about the battles throughout the rest of the pack with Trent Goodrow, like you mentioned, trying to make the move on Paul Henley. Didn't really quite work out for that 5-car. All drivers racing for the position, the better stop.
Lead! Up at the lead, Tanner Cook just got a shun, I think, from Justin Egan and loosened him ball up. Sorry to cut you off there, Chris, but it got real sketchy. Robert Fletcher drove through the chaos to the lead this time, and we'll take a second look at that incident because we were on board, so we didn't really get a good shot of it, and it looks like the 56 just loosened up Tanner Cook there, and going to be an extended replay here, but the 56 was all over him there, and Chris just went, I think, a little bit too far.
Yeah, all fine there, Cisco. Battle for the lead changing. Not who I thought it would be taking the lead. Robert Fletcher showing right place, right time here, Cisco. Now Tanner Cook making quick work, getting back up to that 71 machine as Justin Egan has to really battle Garrett Conrath right now, which slowed that 56 machine down a little bit. 56 really kind of ate up those tires because you only get one set of tires in this heat race, and he's really sliding around, coming in and out of the corner, just trying to get back up to those drivers. But look at the battle for the lead once again. Fletcher and Cook going at it as Cook has reeled the 71 back in all over the back bumper of Robert Fletcher.
Yeah, and the 96 has done an excellent job of recovering, and I'm surprised with the amount of sliding that he did that those tires are still capable of taking him to the front, but Tanner Cook doing an excellent job right now, sitting in that 2nd place, and Garrett Conrath had a front row seat for all of that and is kind of giving these guys a little bit of space to race, I believe, that number 9 has done. So he kind of sits behind his Fletcher, got very loose. Cook gonna go the inside to try and evade it, and all of a sudden it's all bunched up for the lead. It was Fletcher got all sorts of loose going through the corner.
There was contact. Tanner Cook brushed up against that 71's corner panel on entry, got him really loose going into that corner, but Tanner Cook was able to take advantage, although Robert Fletcher was able to save it, which was an amazing save going down through those corners, Cisco. Justin Egan able to take advantage as well, move his way back up to 2nd place. So a lot of contact going on with 20 laps to go, just past halfway.
Yeah, and Tanner Cook, I don't know if he necessarily wanted to do that. There was a little bit of space there, but the contact was made, and the 71 falls back to 3rd. So it's Cook, Egan, and Fletcher right now, your top 3 heading through the corner once again, and Cook just doing an excellent job of making his way back through the field, not getting too worried. But I don't think that incident was necessarily wanted by Tanner. He saw the gap, and just looked like there was a little bit of space there, but contact still made.
And we're back to the same situation we were a few laps ago. Cisco. Tanner Cook leading the race, Egan in second, Fletcher in third, but Egan is there all over the back bumper of 96. Can I say deja vu maybe? Are we going to see the same thing kind of happen? Is the 56 going to be this aggressive coming down? With the laps winding down, this race is flying by, Cisco. So the 56 of Justin Egan really has to time his marks if he wants to make that pass for the lead. Tanner Cook doing a great job of controlling the field as you see the 56 get all over the back bumper coming out of turn 2. He knows that he's there.
Yeah, and the 56 going to look to the inside that time. Tanner Cook, the defensive move into the corner there to kind of clamp down on that inside line. It's going to hurt his corner off a little bit, but Egan got loose. Tanner's going to open up just about a third of a car length on Egan back down to turn number 1. You see him diving it into those corners. And the 56, I think a little bit better corner entry, and that could be bad news for Tanner Cook because we've already seen these guys not afraid to use the bumpers early on in these street stocks. You can do it, and you're not going to be happy about getting moved, but as we've seen, you can do it, and things won't get too sketchy here because we're not really going at extremely fast mile an hour right now. I mean, these guys barely hitting about 110, 115 or so down the straightaway. So it allows these guys to have a little bit more physical altercations here and not get things too sketchy here, Chris.
Yeah, it allows them to really save the cars a lot more here. Cisco is just looking at the battle for the lead of Justin Egan, trying to do everything he can as he gives us a shot going out of turn number 2, and I think he might just get going into turns 3. Never mind, Tanner Cook gonna shut the door, so Justin Egan is gonna have to reset once again. Will he give him another shot? You can see him almost get up there coming out of 4, but he's gonna slide just a little bit coming out of turn number 4 as well. You don't want that to happen this late in the race.
That, I think, was the first strike, Chris. If he makes a second one, that'll be the second one. And, of course, we know what happens when you get to that third one. But, hello, Justin Egan, very loose off the corner. And the problem is he's diving it in so late on those corners, Chris. I think he's losing time off, and he's just roasting those tires, those iRacing Hoosiers that he's got on the street stock right now. And Egan slowly losing that gap. Now, I think the aggressiveness starting to backfire a little bit on the City Chevrolet.
And you would think he'd be racing the dirt version of this USA International Speedway with how sideways he got coming out of that corner, because it was a miracle that he really saved that. He got really, really close to the wall there, but he was able to regain it still all over the back bumper of Tanner Cook. I think all 3 of these drivers, yes, 3 drivers, because Robert Fletcher is back there waiting, Cisco, have used up their tires to the best of their ability. 11 laps to go now left in the heat. Another shot from Justin Egan to Tanner Cook, but Cook able to stay out in front.
That was the second one, so if you're keeping score, the next one should be the I'm going to pass you now and you can't do anything about it tap, but we'll just have to see. Fletcher, meanwhile, I think is roughing up Egan a little bit as well because he's still very much in this fight, and he got that lead taken away not that long ago. So still very much in this fight is Robert Fletcher. Keep an eye on that 71 total machine as they head down the backstretch once again. 9 laps to go at the line. Justin Egan still there looking for any mistake or the ability to force maybe a mistake on Tanner Cook. 9 laps to go this time, Chris.
And it only takes one, Cisco, this late in the race. If Tanner Cook was to fall from grace, because he's had an amazing race this far, minus the contact with Justin Egan that really sent him back a little bit, he's led all of this race. He's had a phenomenal race, so he really just needs to finish strong here, bring it to the line in one piece, but I don't know if Justin Egan will allow that to happen. He's been all over the back bumper, throwing shots to the back bumper on the entries to the corners, but this time it looks like Tanner Cook is somewhat pulling away from that 56 machine. Look at how far that 56 dives it in to try to bring the gap back up. Just behind him, Robert Fletcher trying to hold on in case these two make a mistake, and he can do what he did a few laps ago and take the lead from both of them. So anything can happen with laps winding down here.
Yeah, absolutely. 7 laps to go at the line now, and it's Egan's been looking for the opportunity, Chris, and it just, I don't know if that car necessarily has the tires left to do it. You see Robert Fletcher there, maybe looking for his opportunity to move past the number 56 of Justin Egan. And Fletcher at this point, I think, has won the better cars on the track because he's stayed with these guys and even caught up to them. So I think the 71, probably in the best scenario, has been in the least incidents out of these 3 right now. And I think that 71, that'll be the car to watch here.
And it really will be, because you can see him trying to use that apron to turn and get a little bit sideways coming out of turn 2. You can just see how tight these cars are, because I've seen the 96 do it, I've seen the 56 do it, and now I just saw the 71. They're trying to use that apron, get that extra amount of turn in these cars just to get to go around just a little bit and try to get to the inside. But right now, battle for second going on as Fletcher is all over the back bumper of Justin Egan. Tanner Cook really driving away with 5 laps to go, 4 at the line, Cisco, as everything is winding down here in heat number 1. Tanner Cook looks like he's going to be the driver to take it, as he's just walking away from Justin Egan.
Yeah, Tanner at this point, I think, just needs to put the car in cruise control and make these last 4 laps or so nice and easy, not make too many mistakes, because Justin Egan has been getting all sorts of loose and just losing time to the leader right now. It's going to be a case who's going to win that battle for second more than who's going to get the battle for the lead, as time running down. But he did gain a little bit of time there, did Egan, out of kind of mid-corner speed through there, but 3 laps to go now, and Egan's still not quite out of this fight just yet.
Yeah, Egan showing some last little bits of life here in the winding laps. You said 3 laps to go. We'll take 2 as they're coming through 3 and 4. Tanner Cook having a great race. Like you mentioned, all he has to do is put it in cruise control. But look at that battle for a second. Robert Fletcher all over the back bumper of the 56 of Justin Egan as they come across to take 2 laps to go. Fletcher's there. He knows he can make that pass, but he's only got 1 more shot to go do it, as they're going down the back straightaway and through 3 and 4 to try to take the white flag here at USA International Speedway.
Do any of them have enough time or enough car to be able to make the pass happen? Tanner Cook rounds turn number 4. 1 more time he has to do this. White flag in the air, this time for Tanner Cook, down to turn number 1. It looks like it's going to be a clean entry for him for now. Egan makes up a ton of time in mid-corner, just doesn't have the car to be able to keep it off the corner. They go into turn number 3. Last time for these guys. Any moves they'll be able to make, and no, looks like they're going to all keep it off each other. Top 3, but Tanner Cook is going to be able to pull off the victory and win heat race number 1 here from the USA International Speedway.
And what a race by that driver. What a race by just the top 3 there to get so much contact. Justin Egan, as you saw, coming out of turn 4, got a little bit loose, just giving it all he got, trying to get to that 96 machine, but to no avail. Tanner Cook will take the heat number 1 win. That means he'll start row 1 on the inside. So Tanner Cook looking really good for that A main, Cisco.
Yeah, absolutely, and not going to get a chance to talk with him, but we will run you through your full race results here before we get set to change over and head to heat race number 2 here on the CEA New Year's Street Stock Nationals. Tanner Cook was able to get the win here in heat race number 1. Justin Egan going to finish 2nd, 3rd going to go to Robert Fletcher, 4th to Garrett Conrath. Gabriel Mauricio is going to finish 5th, 6th going to go to Robert Vorvald. 7th going to go to Trent Goodrow. Richard Reagan Jr. finishes 8th. 9th going to go to Paul Henley. Randy Yoakum going to round out your top 10. And then Timothy Adams and Brian Simpson round out your final 2 cars here from heat race number 1. But Chris, final thoughts before we head over to heat race number 2?
If that's what we've got to expect of the racing here tonight in heat number 2 and in that A main, I'm excited for what the rest of this evening has in store for us, Cisco. Can't wait to see what all these drivers in heat number 2 have on tap for us.
Well, stay tuned here for LSRTV heat race number 2 and the finale 200 laps here at the USA International Speedway still on the docket. Touch that dial. We'll be right back here on LSRTV, your home for sim racing.
Yellow flag is out. Pit road is now open. Keep your eye on those gauges. We'll give you 4 tyres. 3, 2, 1, now. We're done. Get going.
Welcome back, as we sit once again high above USA International Speedway for what will be the second heat race of 2 here for the CEA New Year's Street Stock Nationals right here on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Cisco Scaramuza alongside Chris Murdoch to bring you all the action. And Chris, we had an amazing heat race for that first race, and we're getting kicked off here with race number 2. 15 cars can be taking part in this one, and I'm not expecting much to change here, Chris. Wow, that don't know where I was going with that.
English.
But English, please. We saw a lot of bumping and kind of moving guys in that first heat race. Not expecting a whole lot to change coming into the second race.
Yeah, definitely, Cisco. We saw an action-packed 50 laps in heat race number 1, where we saw Tanner Cook take the lead, but a whole lot take the win, I should say. But a whole lot happened in between that, with Justin Egan and Robert Fletcher making their way through the field and making it an exciting heat 1 finish. Tanner Cook will advance as well as everybody else in that heat race, as there was only 12 drivers, and you said 15 drivers here, so 15 cars advance in this one to set the second row. So I expect more action pack racing here.
So I guess what we're learning from this, Chris, is the fact that there are going to be 3 extra guys starting on the outside, or they might actually have to file the inside. We'll have to see once we get to the A main how that's going to all sort itself out. But cars beginning to head to the starting line here, so we'll take a look at your LSRTV starting grid for heat race number 2 here from USA International Speedway. And it's Jacob Porter, as I mentioned, teammate to Tanner Cook. A little bit of a grudge match between those two tonight. He's going to start on the front row alongside Max Cookson. And that 39 going to start second. Third going to go to Mason Dunn. Fourth going to go to Aaron Smith. Luis Calderon is going to start fifth. Sixth going to go to Adam Rigo. Seventh going to go to Garrett Strakota. Matt Chinowski is going to start eighth. Ninth going to go to CJ Mason. And rounding out your top 10, Chris, going to be Tyler Simmons.
Yeah, again, going back to 11th, that's going to be the 31 of Brad Carpenter. Jeremy Watkins going to be 12th. Rocky Boyd is going to be 13th. 14th is going to be Andrew Cardinal. And then Dustin Turnage is going to be 15th.
And looks like we will be missing a couple cars here from the feature later on in the race. We'll get more on that once we get a little bit closer to race time. Kyle Barnes talking in our ear during there, so we'll get more information for that for you guys here coming up in the once we get it, actually. So these guys pacing, of course, 2 pace laps around this track, less than a mile. So it looks like a couple cars being sent to the rear due to the fact they were taking laps in warm-up. They're down, you can see them kind of towards the rear of your field. Luis Calderon, one of those drivers, alongside Dustin Turnage, both those guys being sent to the rear for taking laps during warm-up. But Jacob Porter, Chris, he's leading the field here, the Blue Ridge Auto Parts machine. And we know the teammate struggle can be high, and I think for Porter, with Tanner winning that first race, he'll want to do the same thing and match him here.
Yeah, pressure's on not only to perform well against your teammate, but to get in front of all these other drivers to start this race.
Yep, and pace car is in this time, and it's going to be Jacob Porter leading the field to the green flag this time. Green flag going to be in the air. We're underway for heat race number 2 here from the USA International Speedway. Down to turn 1 they go. Outside going to be the number 39 of Max Cookson. He's trying to make it work. We haven't seen anybody be able to do it all day, but he's got a nose in front. Down to turn 3 they go.
Yeah, he's really making that outside work, which is not something that's all too common here at USA, but he got a little bit of contact into the door of Jacob Porter, which really slowed that momentum down. Jacob Porter able to fire off a turn 4, take that lead, and gonna get into the lead going through 1 and 2. Mason Dunn and company back there. That's gonna be Aaron Aaron Smith going to be side by side with the number 77. Now battles going on all over the place to open it up here to start, Cisco. Hard to keep your eyes on just one.
Yeah, plenty of battles going early on here. I believe the first side-by-side I saw was Matt Janowski, that 88 stuck on the outside with Rocky Boyd, the third down on the inside making things happen. The 25, see the blue and black flames on that machine. He's down to the inside, got a little bit loose, and now following through is going to be Adam Rigo, the 28. So the freight train already has pulled into the station, it looks like, and its first victim, Matt Janowski, stuck on the outside as they go side by side in front of him. Contact. Turnage gonna hit the left rear of Adam Rigo. He'll be able to hold on to it. Yes, he will. Got very loose, still loose, and holds on to it. That got real sketchy real quickly.
Yeah, Rigo able to hold on to it, trying to fall back in line in front of the 27 of Tyler Simmons, and he does with that 72 machine of Luis Calderon stuck on the outside. A whole lot of contact and a whole lot of wiggling going on in that 28 machine. What a save by Adam Rigo to keep the car going forward. Meanwhile, up front, Jacob Porter, Max Cookson have almost separated themselves from the rest of the field by almost a second, as now the 39 going to look towards the inside, not going to quite be there on the 3 machine, as Jacobs Porter has got a whole lot on his plate early on here within the first 10 laps.
Porter and Cookson might have separated themselves from the rest of the field, but Cookson has not separated himself from the rear bumper of the number 3 car, because he's making plenty of use of that front valence on that 39 and rear bumper of that number 3 car, and he's going to look to the inside this time. But I think he watched heat race number 1 and went, man, those guys were taking it easy. I can't do that. I got to get to the front my way. And the 39 now about a foot or so away from the 3. That's the biggest gap he's had, and he's going to send it to the inside this time. Porter says, no, thank you. That's my lane. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he really shut the door on the 39 machine. Now Cookson gets a little loose coming out of turn 4. We saw a lot of that later on in heat number 1, but to be loose and sliding around early on lap 8 is really not a good thing for those tires there, Cisco. So he's gonna have to do a better job at really conserving those, as now he's all over the back bumper of Jacob Porter, going through 3 and 4. Just can't get there. He's at the back bumper, but he can't get there to either give him a bump or get on the inside. So struggling early on for Max Cookson, as they've got over a 1.2 gap on third on back.
And we've seen kind of in these heat races, Chris, not only in this but also in the Battle of the Bull Ring, that things can get out of hand if a couple drivers start getting into each other more often than not. We saw it in one of the heat races at the Bull Ring, how things can go very wrong if done incorrectly. So looks like the 39 right now continue to be fairly gentle with the taps. I mean, he hasn't moved him out of the way quite yet, Chris, and he's had plenty of opportunities to do so as they head back into turn number 3. But the 39, nope, he's not waiting any longer. There goes Porter around, and the 39 will pass him on the apron. I don't know if Porter's gonna let him slide with that one.
Well, he might not let him slide. Look at the 77, 3 wide going down into the corner. Now it's going to be 2 wide between the 39, as Jacob Porter's going to make it 3 wide once again, getting a little bit too close for comfort there. Almost got turned to the inside wall. Biggest loser out of that going to be Max Cookson, and the 39 still from second to third, as now there is a side-by-side battle for the lead as Jacob Porter sliding out of turn 4. Whoa.
The manners have been thrown out the window at this point. I can tell you right now, Chris, Porter is absolutely sending that car in the hopes that he can make the bottom side work. It's 4 cars under a blanket as Aaron Smith has joined the battle here, and Porter not at all happy. Seeing red out the front windshield is the driver in the number 3. Caution is out, though. They'll have to cool down for a moment. It's problems with Tyler Simmons, the 27.
Yeah, Tyler Simmons in that 27 machine facing the wrong way coming out of turn number 2. We'll try to see how what happened there. It looks like contact between he and CJ Mason, as Mason got off the wall a little bit too hard there, right down into the 27 machine, hard into the outside wall, and just sent that car for a spin up towards the wall, facing the wrong way, but he was able to get his flip back around. Heavy damage though to that front end.
Luis Calderon got a front seat to that one. Was right on board with him before we cut back to the live shot here, and the 33 seemed to get loose up on the top signs, just tapping. I think got a little too scared of the wall there, and just comes down and it all went wrong for the 27. Tyler Simmons, nowhere to go for him. And unfortunately, that'll bring out our first caution flag roundabout where it came out last time, because we're about 12 or 13 laps into this run. So go figure, the parity continues. One thing that won't, though, is I think the nice clean driving between the 3, the 39, the 77, because as we saw, Chris, it went from a race to a slight misunderstanding to a full-out brawl there.
Yeah, I really feel bad for the tires on those 3 machines, as the biggest mover out of all of that, the 77 of Garrett Strakota, and started 7th all the way up to the front, was able to really benefit off of Cookson and Porter getting into it, going through the corners there. Aaron Smith able to make his car up there a little bit to get into the battle before the caution came out. So everybody's there, and I think the top 3 are pretty much on the same level playing field as tires go, but we'll see how long it takes for Jacob Porter to make a resurgence back to the lead. He's going to be on the outside this time, when we know how the outside goes here at USA.
Yeah, no kidding. And Porter still going to have the opportunity. He'll be stuck on the outside. So I think, Chris, we know what's going to happen here. We know he's not terribly happy with the 39 right now. I'm expecting chopblock.com over here. I don't know about you.
Oh, I thoroughly expected. There was a lot of contact between the 39 and the 3, and there was really a lot of slipping and sliding going through the corners, because, you know, they would get it back under control, and then another shot would come from the back end, or a car in front of them would be loose, and they'd have to... It was all over the place as everybody was trying to battle for the lead. And keep in mind, when that was happening, we were only about 12 laps into the race here, Cisco, so imagine how the rest of these runs are going to go.
Yeah, no kidding. So Garrett Strakota, Jacob Porter, Max Cookson, Aaron Smith, and Mason Dunn round out your top 5 right now. Also keep in mind Dustin Turnage, who came from the rear of your field here after doing some times in warm-up. He's working his way back through this field. Keep an eye on that number 1 car as well. But Garrett Strakota, he'll take the green flag from here. No, it's going to check up a little bit, and I think that threw Porter for a loop. Green flag back in the air, and 77 out by his lonesome, side by side for second. Do they make it through there without wrecking each other?
I'm gonna assume yes, because the 39 of Cookson has almost got the 3 of Jacob Porter clear. Porter gonna try it and fall back in line. He does, right behind Max Cookson. As you mentioned, Strakota in that 77 machine got a huge jump at the start of that run, gonna lead the opening lap on this restart, but he's really got to watch out for that 39 of Max Cookson, because from what we've saw early on here, Cisco Cookson is not afraid to use that bumper to get around people.
Yeah, no kidding. So Max Cookson now sits in a position he was very familiar with. The only difference, that's a 77 in front of him instead of a 3. We saw quickly that Rocky Boyd got all out of shape kind of in your mid-pack there. The battle continues around Mason Dunn there in that 51 car, and them going at it. But I really don't want to leave the 39, the 77, because we did that during heat race number 1, and that's when all the action kicked off. So now looks like the 39 looks to the inside, not that time though. So we'll try and keep an eye on both battles here throughout your field, but you got to think the 39, we know it's coming at this point.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to know that there is going to be some shots thrown between either the 39, the 77, the 39, and the 3. All 3 of those drivers, basically in the top 3, have some shots to be thrown their way, or to give some shots, Cisco. So we'll have to watch as you see Max Cookson really close in on that 77's back bumper. Almost there. Jacob Porter, on the other hand, has really fallen off back to about a 17th gap. He's almost fallen back into the clutches of the 70 of Aaron Smith, so maybe the tires are really going in the wrong way for Jacob Porter.
They probably are, and I'm thinking that's why he's actually back here. He might be trying to cool off the tires a little bit. There's a little bit of contact behind him. It's the battle of the 70 and the 51, Mason Dunn. He's going to jump to the inside, a little bit of use of the bumper there, and he'll get to the inside this time. The Menard Chevrolet stuck on the top side as the Valvoline Camaro makes the pass happen. I said keep an eye on that one because Turnage is trying to make the inside work and start the freight train on the number 70, the one down to the inside this time. Not quite going to be able to get a fender. Yes, he will. But Aaron Smith hanging tough on that outside, trying to make it work. But it's at this point, it's only an inevitability at this point, Chris.
And you got to think of the mountain that Dustin Turnage has had to climb here, Cisco. He was one of those 3 drivers that got sent to the back because he almost made it 3 wide there coming out of turn 2. One of those drivers that got sent to the back after a strictly enforced no cars on track rule. So making his way back up to 6th, he was almost making it 3 wide to get 2 for 1. As he makes slight contact with the 70 there, he gets a little bit out of shape, thinks better of it, slows down. Now he's going to be side by side with Aaron Smith, trying to make his way through this field. Meanwhile, up front, it's almost the same story as before, Cisco. Max Cookson really hasn't separated from the back bumper of Garrett Strakota, just like he was doing with Jacob Porter. So he's there, but he's just got to keep that car under control. He slid big time coming out of 4 to lose a lot of that time, so he's just got to keep that 39 machine under him, and I think he'll be right back up there to 77.
Yeah, and Turnage doing an excellent job down on the inside, but yeah, we saw the 39 have a little bit of a bobble, lost a little bit of time, and I think it was a tap that he gave to Garrett Strakota that loosened up the 39, and it kind of backfired on him. So keep an eye on those leaders. So the one just bounced the car off the wall, I believe. That was Dustin Turnage. And Turnage trying to make his way, as you mentioned, through the field right now, sitting in this 5th position, and plenty of time to make the pass on Mason Dunn. Not sure if he's going to get to Jacob Porter, who Chris has done an excellent job to make his way back through this field and make his way back up towards the leaders. I think that's exactly what he wants to do right now. Not sure if he necessarily wants to go out and win this thing after what we saw earlier, but I know the 3 car is, I think, just saving those tires and kind of waiting for the end of this thing.
Exactly. Like we've mentioned at the top of heat number 2, 15 drivers registered, 14 drivers have taken a time here, so everybody really makes the race. So Jacob Porter really just looking to keep the car in one piece, come home and keep that 3rd place position in Heat 2 to advance to a very good starting position in the A main. So as you mentioned, he might just be riding to the end because he knows he does not have the tires to get back up there to the lead because of all that contact, slipping and sliding around. Those tires have pretty much been worn down, but he still has a great shot for a great finishing and starting position at the end of this heat.
Battle continuing on for 4th. The one had an opportunity the inside, could have moved him, didn't, but Dustin Turnage all over, and that's the mistake he was waiting for. Mason Dunn up the racetrack, might have just let him go right there, but Turnage had the opportunity to pass him. Now he will have the opportunity. Down to the inside goes the Nationwide Street stock of him. The Camaro, the Valvoline machine up on the top side, very tight through the corner, lets both of them go. I'm not sure if that's what Mason Dunn wanted to do, but he was stuck on the top side of this racetrack, and it did not pay off for him at all. Falls back to 6th, the Valvoline entry.
And you've got to think that Dustin Turnage is in the best case scenario right now, because if you think of how those top 3 are struggling, we're 21 laps to go as there is a side-by-side battle for the lead. The 39 got tired of waiting for Strakota, I should say, as now the Strakota going to give a huge shot to the back bumper of Matt Cookson coming through the corner, but it really didn't mean too much, didn't upset that 39 machine at all, move Max Cookson to the lead now. But as I was saying here, Cisco, Dustin Turnage looks to be in a really good spot with just 20 laps to go. You know, he still has all 4 of those tires in his favor.
And Strakota has the opportunity to make the payback happen because we still have 18 laps to go at the line. So there's still plenty of opportunities for Strakota to get back at the leader of Max Cookson here. But Cookson has not made any friends tonight, Chris. And I'm not sure, considering this is the heat race and these guys still have about 200 laps after this thing, that's not really something you want to be doing right now.
Yeah, you definitely do not want to make enemies, especially going into that 200 lap feature, which I've really never seen before at USA International Speedway. So that'll be interesting of itself, because if they're really going through these tires in 50 laps, I can't imagine one set of tires in 200 laps, how that'll do. So it'll be interesting to see how all these drivers adapt to that, because right now they've just been throwing everything, maybe even the kitchen sink, at this track to try to get some position. So to go from this to that race will be a change all in itself.
Yeah, the mentality of these drivers is going to have to change, because 200 laps, you can't be driving like that and expect to make it the whole way. Otherwise, it's going to be chaos. So Max Cookson and Garrett Strakota still continuing to lead right now. Jacob Porter sits in that third position, hasn't quite been able to stay with the leaders. Not sure if that's by design or what the case is for the three, or he's just kind of stuck back there. But either way, in the middle of no man's land, nobody near him, about a second in front of him and about 2 seconds behind him. And then, of course, we have this battle. Dustin Turnage was able to get past Mason Dunn, and nothing has really changed back for 4th, 5th, and 6th. They've just opened themselves up a little bit, but apart from that, it's been fairly the same, this running order. And then right behind him, Rocky Boyd able to save that car earlier on at the beginning of this run after the caution flag, has moved his way up to 7th. Rigo up to 8th after his amazing save earlier on in this thing. So everybody staying fairly in the same order here, not a whole lot changing. And 13 laps to go at the line when they get to that point here, Chris.
Yeah, and I wouldn't really speak too soon, because look at Strakota giving the shot almost to the 39. Look at how much he made that 77 stick. I knew that somebody would eventually do it, diving it really hard in there, getting at the bottom to stick, and he is there on the inside for the lead. Strakota trying to get by the 39 once again. The 39 gonna make some slight contact with the door, try to get clear of that 77 machine, and it looks like maybe he does not. The 77 is still going to keep that nose into that quarter panel, trying to get, and he's loose, and he's going to clear. The 39 will clear Strakota. So what a move by that 77. So he does have some life still in those tires, gives a shot to that 39 machine.
I don't know if he has life left in the tires, but he has life left in the front bumper, and that's about as important of a cornering tool right now for Garrett Strakota as those 4 iRacing Hoosiers. Goodbye, Max Cookson. And oh dear, this is once again going crazy. And I think Jacob Porter, I think this proves, Chris, it was by design, because he's now in with a shot for these guys. I think he knew what was coming and gave these guys plenty of space to be able to rough each other up a little bit, because Jacob Porter, hello, he's sort of back in this fight, only 4/10 back now.
Yeah, and I do not think that Max Cookson will let that big of a shot going through the corners with 10 laps to go now at the line. Let it go by. I think the 39 will get to Cookson and give him maybe even a bigger shot, if not the same amount of work. So we'll have to see how this goes, because the 39 of Cookson is on the back bumper, and look, he sends it into the corner to get that 77 loose. To 77 all over the back bumper. Look, Max Cookson gonna go under, so side by side for the lead, and look at Jacob Porter back in this thing.
Yeah, Porter's still very much a factor into this. He's right back into this fight, and he'll try and freight trade Strakota to the outside. That's exactly what happens. Porter timed it perfectly. Down to the inside, battle for second. 3 down to the inside into turn number 3. And 77, nowhere to go. Garrett Strakota all of a sudden finds himself in third. No, he doesn't. Cut back, crossover move out of the 4, and he'll get to the inside of Porter.
And that was an excellent, like a perfectly executed crossover there, Cisco, to get right by the 3 of just Jacob Porter. So let's look as he tries to stay on the outside of the 77. Now he's not going to really stay there. He's going to fall back in line. But look at Max Cookson basically pulling away from this battle for a second. This is exactly what that 39 machine wants to see.
Yeah, and Strakota at this point, I think, is in a case where maybe better to play defense than offense here, because if you get to Cookson, you move him, you get the lead back. Well, I think we know what's going to happen. So I think you're better off trying to play defense with Porter, or maybe all these guys will try and cool themselves down, because, Chris, keep in mind, all of these guys are starting right behind each other in the main. And if you think Garrett Strakota is going to go into the A main without doing anything to Max Cookson, turn 1, lap 1, I don't think the odds are very good.
Yeah, they've been back and forth this entire heat, Cisco.
These guys start on the outside too, Chris.
Yeah, that could
happen to turn 1.
that could really cause problems for the inside line and the entire field, depending on how everything stacks up on who's in front of who. Because this race still not over 5 laps to go. Anything can really happen. They've used up all their tires, so sliding through the corners is still not out of the question here, Cisco, as Strakota is trying to hold on to the car out of turn 2. Porter's still there, but they're all got a decent amount of space to at least be civil at the moment.
Yeah, and we'll have to see. It looks like it could maintain that way depending on how loose Strakota is. Dustin Turnage, of course, has worked his ways about a second and a half or so on these guys. So still an opportunity that he may have the opportunity to be able to get past these guys should things go nuclear, but I think we're okay at the moment. Still, as the 39 managing to maintain the lead, 3 laps to go at the line.
Yeah, the 39 of Max Cookson has really used that chrome horn to his advantage to really get by each other, and that's a perfectly okay strategy at short tracks like this. But I'm not going to say in a heat race that you really want to do that. You might have a little bit of enemies coming up here in this 200 lap feature between all 3 of these drivers up here in the top 3, really, between Jacob Porter, Garrett Strakota, and maybe even Max Cookson has some payback. But look at the 77 looking towards the inside for the lead. Very last minute pass. Can he execute it? Look at how close the 39's getting to that 77's corner panel, side by side, going down the back straightaway, going into turns 3 and 4. The 77's going to have the preferred line on that inside. Can he complete the pass? And he's going to power off of turn 4, get a little bit loose, but it's not going to matter. He's going to clear the 39. White flag, 1 more lap to go.
I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to end well, because the 39, the move to the inside, he moves him out of the way. Jacob Porter front seat, can he win this thing? But down to the inside goes Max Cookson. Porter makes it 3 wide. He thinks better of it. The 39 very loose. The 3 bumps him out of the way. Strakota is going to get shuffled back to 3rd, and Max Cookson's going to hold on. Survey says Porter will get 2nd, and Strakota will get 3rd. But that got real sketchy at the end, and Max Cookson will hold on, but he'll have a very angry Jacob Porter and Garrett Strakota right behind him for the start of the feature here from USA. And oh dear, this was the heat, Chris. We still have a whole 200 laps to go.
That is exactly right, and I really don't know how CEA is going to officiate that last pass by Max Cookson, because I don't know if they really followed the yellow line rule here at USA, but there were 2 tires all the way under that yellow line to get that last lap pass, so we'll have to see how things shake out in finishing order. But right now, Max Cookson scored your leader as an amazing finish. Jacob Porter almost got there, but finished 2nd.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at your full race rundown here before we swap over to the main feature here for the CEA New Year's Street Stock Nationals. And it was Max Cookson who got the upper hand over Jacob Porter and Garrett Strakota. Dustin Turner is going to finish 4th. 5th going to go to Aaron Smith. 6th going to go to Mason Dunn. 7th going to go to Adam Rigo. Matt Chinoski going to finish 8th. 9th to Rocky Boyd the 3rd. Andrew Cardinal is going to finish 10th. Then you got Luis Calderon, Jeremy Watkins, CJ Mason, and Tyler Simmons, with Brad Carpenter, who, because he did not take a lap, will not start in the feature race here coming up in just around the turn. But with that, we're going to take a moment, step aside, and swap over to the feature and see who will be able to survive 200 laps here for the CEA Street Stock New Year's Street Stock Nationals here on LSRTV. Don't go anywhere. I mean, if that heat race was one thing to show, we still got plenty of racing action right here on LSRTV.
Hi, I'm Ryan Priest. I'm driving the number 20 JGR Toyota Xfinity car this weekend. Really great opportunity here at New Hampshire at my home track. Over the past 2 weeks, I've been on iRacing, practicing a little bit here and there with the modified and the NASCAR Xfinity car, so it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great tool for me to kind of get used to that stock car body again and be prepared for the race today. Well, yeah, it's a mile long, so the draft kind of plays into effect here with the modifieds. Punches a big hole in the air, and we run restrictor plates, so it makes a big difference. Just really fast, and it's our Daytona. So that's what's great about it, and we have a fast car for tomorrow. I think the biggest thing is they're heavier cars. The tire's a lot different, and the way you go about setting them up is a lot different. They use all 4 tires more than a modified, where we typically drive off the right rear, you know, so. Well, actually, it's funny. I raced NASCAR race in 2003 before iRacing came about. And then when iRacing came about, my friend Kevin Iannarelli, who works at iRacing, kind of told me, hey man, you need to switch over to this. And when I did, I was like, oh my God, this is like real life. So I started using it as a tool of mine to to really prepare for modified races, whether it was Stafford or Thompson or Loudon, Bristol, and then obviously the Xfinity Series last year, going to road courses, trying to get laps, and use it as a tool that can get me as prepared as I could be without actually doing it. So it's been great.
When I was 16 years old, I was working in a Goodyear tire store, and my boss actually built an old dirt car, street stock Monte Carlo. Went with him one night, fell in love with it. It was a hell of a race, hell of a party, and a big fight afterwards. I was like, this is it. This is it for me. It wasn't long after that, I was driving an old 78 Camaro out of the weeds at that guy's farm. We pulled that thing out and made a race car out of it, and away we went. You know, I think a driver has more to do with the equation going back and racing dirt, whether it's a modified, a late model. You can do more with the race car. You know, the harder you drive it, a lot of times, the better it goes. You can crawl up on that wheel and feel like you made the difference at the end of the night. Asphalt car, you can't overdrive them. Well, that was the first thing that I had to learn right off the bat is, oh my gosh, I've got to discipline myself, not overdrive this thing, and that's how you get the most out of it. Truth be told, communicating the right information to your crew and your crew chief so they can do their job and make their appropriate adjustments for you to go faster and do your job is probably 90% of the game in our world. I've always loved late models. You know, my dream was to be a late model driver driving for a living across the country like Daryl and Don do that drive for me. I mean, that was, truth be told, that was my dream, you know. I always wanted a semi. I always wanted a stacker trailer with 2 hot rods in it and let's go racing. Let's take off with your buddies and go race and chase that dream. Never in a million years did I think it would turn into a Cup Series, and I actually have an opportunity to own 2 you know, dirt late model teams. When you think of iRacing, you don't think of a video game. It's not. It's way above and beyond any of that. You know, dirt racing changes so much. The track changes so much. Being able to capture that, to, you know, experience all those details that surround dirt racing and make dirt racing what it is what makes iRacing so cool, because they did nail all of that. I knew when they came to our shop and scanned cars and went to the detail of getting that car right, I knew that it was going to be over the top, because it blew my mind just the work that went into making sure the car itself was legit. This sport has been around a long time. The competition can't be replaced, and that's what brings people back to the racetrack week in and week out.
Well, Night has descended here on the USA International Speedway, and well, that means one thing. There will be fireworks at the end of this either way, because of course we'll get some fireworks when the leader crosses the start-finish line. And after heat races number 1 and 2, I think we're getting set to see some fantastic fireworks. So the CEA New Year's Street Stock National continues right here on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Cisco Scaramuza alongside Chris Murdoch to bring you all the action. And here we are, Chris. The feature, and if the heat races are anything to go by, this is going to be 200 laps of wreck, then patience, then wreck, then patience, or maybe not wreck, but excuse me, I have to get down to the inside. I'm going to use my bumper. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we thought Heat 1 had a lot of contact in it, but you know, Heat 2 just left me speechless. You know, just a whole lot of bumping and banging and just cars everywhere. So this race should be pretty hectic.
And because there weren't, and nobody actually wrecked from it, you know, people were just kind of getting moved out of the way. Admins had none to call there. So those starting orders that we saw in heat race number 2, that's going to be the starting order on the outside of this race. So keep an eye on those 3. I talked to Jacob Porter briefly. He said he wasn't going to do anything. We'll have to see if that holds true, or maybe he may not have a choice, because it might be a he might get moved out of the way, but we'll just have to find out. But time ticking down here, and we want to remind you that coverage of the CEA the CEA New Year's Street Stock Nationals is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing sponsor of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time behind the wheel, on the pit box, or from the spotter stand here in the sim, JRT is your go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. You can get yourself a basic download or get the pro version today at joel-real-timing.com. We got the plugs out of the way because that's time for us to head to your LSRTV starting grid and find out who's joining us here for the feature here, 200 laps from USA International. Jeremy Adams going to lead off. Starting on the front row, alongside him is going to be Andre Fiorini. He's going to start second. Third going to go to Derek Luchacki. Fourth to Ken Moore Jr. Fifth place going to go to Will Dravicki. Sixth to Jim George. Seventh going to go to Jimmy Mullis. Eighth going to go to Ryan Kuhn. Ninth going to go to Chris Silvestri. And Tanner Cook rounds out your top 10.
And this is where we get into your heat racing order. Max Cookson going to be 11th, 12th. Justin Egan, Jacob Porter's going to be 13th, 14th goes to Dawson Fletcher. Garrett Strakota is going to be 15th. Dustin Turner is 16th. Gabriel Mauricio 17th, 18th. Aaron Smith 19th is going to go to the team of Robert Vormwald, and Mason Dunn going to round out your top 20.
21st going to go to Trent Goodrow. 22nd going to go to Adam Marigo. 23rd to Richard Reagan Jr. 24th to Matt Chinosky. 25th to Paul Henley. 26th to Rocky Boyd the third. 27th place spot going to go to Randy Yoakum. Andrew Cardinal going to start 28th. 29th, Timothy Adams. 30th, Luis Calderon. 31st going to go to Brian Simpson. 32nd to Jeremy Watkins. CJ Mason going to start 33rd. And 34th going to go to Tyler Simmons. 34 cars, 200 laps, plenty of racing action coming up here, Chris. The pace lap before we get this thing underway. Final thoughts.
I really have no words here, Cisco. From what we saw between Porter, you know, Strakota and company in Heat 2, I'm just assuming that there's going to be a lot of shots thrown in this race, and not to even mention the drivers we haven't really seen in this race: Jeremy Adams, Jimmy Mullis, all them drivers. Will Dravicki, we'll have to see how they race. This is the first time we've seen them all night, so it should be a whole lot of fun. 200 laps, mind you.
Yeah, 200 laps. So these guys have to make sure that things don't go to the wars immediately, but we still have that possibility for that to happen. We'll just have to find out. But we thank you for sticking with us here on LSRTV. 200 laps, street stocks. Jeremy Adams going to lead off the front row here alongside the 07 of Andre Fiorini. Pace cars inside. Let's kick this race off right. Jeremy Adams down on the inside, waiting for that green flag in the air, and we are underway here from USA International. Side by side they'll go. To lap 1, turn 1. Do they all make it through?
Yeah, still side by side for that lead, as now Jeremy Adams will clear that 07 of Fiorini, as now the 07 going to try to look towards the inside. Thought better of the 81. That's going to be Ken Morin Jr. He's going to get way loose on the outside line, and he's just going to get freight train now. He's on battling the 11 of Jim George, so not the start that 81 machine wants, as everybody's pretty much, you know, trying to settle out and find their way through these first few laps.
We'll check on him just because of how dramatic it was. Max Cookson and Jacob Porter have about a car buffer between each other, and Garrett Strakota is right behind Porter, but Porter going to let him go there. So that's an eye on your troublemakers there from heat race number 2. We'll see if they maintain to keep it off each other. Meanwhile, side by side, 03, Derek Luchacki down to the inside. He makes the pass on the 07 of Fiorini, stuck on the outside, and it's now Jim George, the 11, another name from the bull ring. The battle at the bull ring that we had just, well, about a week ago or so. He made it pass on the inside. He'll be able to complete that one. And now Ryan Kuhn on the inside, going to try and make it work. He was your winner from the battle of the bull ring, making an excellent job down on the inside.
Yeah, Kuhn doing a great job to get past that 07 of Andre Fiorini, as now Fiorini's got to worry about Ken Morin Jr. Ken Morin Jr. didn't get off to a great start, but he's rebounded really well. Just behind them, there's going to be a battle between Will Dravicki and that 30 machine is now look behind them. That's going to be Justin Egan, finished second in that heat number 1 race, now making his way up through the field very, very fast. But looking up towards the lead, looks like there's going to be a battle shaping up here. Cisco as Gluchaki is just now on the back bumper of Jeremy Adams, as we all have to remember, no tires in this race, so all these drivers pushing really hard, really using up those 4 tires that they have.
Yeah, these guys, it's definitely a race of endurance. You can't burn your stuff up too quickly here, and want to make sure that your car will last all the way to the end of this. I think we saw a little bit of shenanigans back around Strakota. I saw him kind of on the apron. There is a big gap between Strakota and Dawson Fletcher, so not sure what went on there, but either way, kind of 2 packs, I guess if you can call it that. One's a very long single file pack between another long single file pack. So everybody spread out here for the moment, and Gluchaki's still hunting down your leader, Jeremy Adams, but he's got plenty of racing to go here, Chris. Don't want to throw that car away early on, and Gluchaki, nice and patient, right behind Jeremy Adams, who continues to lead.
Yeah, and patience is key here, Cisco. You don't want to, like you said, throw away your car too early here. Now look at that 03 all over the back bumper of Jeremy Adams. Maybe he wants that lead early on. I don't know why. Patience is key, just like I just said. Jim George slowly reeling those 2 drivers back in as Gluchaki looking towards the inside, but Adams going to shut the door, going through 3 and 4 to complete lap number 8. Still hard battling going on up there towards the front, though.
Yeah, hard battling continuing on, and Gluchaki has the opportunity to make the pass, just not utilizing it a whole lot right now, and I think he's being nice and patient. It's allowed Jim George, who I think is faster than Jeremy Adams. I don't think Adams is the fastest car on the track here, because Gluchaki's been able to stay with him here, Chris. That's allowed Jim George to kind of accordion together, and it's already an accordion at the front of your field as Gluchaki took a look to the inside. Adams going to give him some room on the inside, and we'll be able to hold him off there, but these guys giving each other plenty of space early on here at USA.
Yeah, and just behind them, a side-by-side battle. There's a cautions out here back further in the field. We'll have to see who the cause of that was, but trouble early on lap 10.
Might have been Brian Simpson. I saw his MPH drop a little bit. We'll take a second look at your LSRTV replay and find out what happened. And not sure. We'll be looking around and trying to find out what happened.
It's going to be the 4 of Randy Yoakum going to go sideways across the start-finish line. Really, it's going to be him and that 5 machine of Trent Goodrow get into it, going down the front stretch, get turns right across the start-finish line and down through the grass and into the inside wall. But luckily able to really keep it clean, not too much damage on that 4 of Randy Yoakum, as he was able to whip it back around and get that car back going.
Yeah, the Firebird will continue to ride here at USA. I don't think he's going to the back, but I don't think he's going away anytime soon. So Yoakum going to get sent round by the 5 of Trent Goodrow, and will have to work his way back through this field if he hopes to make it into that top 10 and contend for the win here from USA. But remember, these guys, no tires, so those tires that are super scuffed right now, and Randy Oakham, yeah, he's going to have those for the rest of the race. So it's going to be a long night for the driver, the Firebird number 4. He's already on pit road. I think he might have parked it here or got some damage repair. That's actually what he did. Was able to get that fender pulled out on the number 4. You see him rolling, trying to make sure he doesn't get lapped by the pace car. And Randy now going to roll off pit road here and get what looks like to be a fully repaired number 4 Trans Am back out on the racetrack. So look for Randy to try and work his way back through this field. But apart from that incident, Chris, these guys being very, very open, at least from what we've seen on the cameras, not seen a whole lot of moving using the bumper. I think these guys will behave themselves, at least for the first 100. Second 100, we'll just have to see.
Yeah, the second 100 might really turn into one of those heat races we saw earlier with bumpers flying everywhere. But Randy Oakham, like you mentioned, has a tall task in front of him here. You know, it still has to run on those 4 tires, plus being all the way back in 33rd. He was able to make his way up through the field just a little bit to get up towards that 5 car, but now going to have to start all over once again as we just crossed the line. Doubled him up on lap 14, so that means 1 to go. Lights are off on the pace car. Jeremy Adams still going to be your leader, with Derek Gluchacki, who started third, going to move up to second. So that should be an interesting battle, as they were really starting to get heated. As you know, you just mentioned that they were on the inside of each other just before that caution had came out.
And we have a very long train of cars here. We might actually have to get an extended caution period just to make sure everybody catches back up to the field, but it looks like we will be good to go here as they round turn 3 and 4. Keep an eye on that pace car. If the lights come back on, no, they won't. Pace car's in, so we're going to get back rolling here. Jeremy Adams control the field. Green flag back in the air. He's on the loud pedal, and he's trying to clear Derek Gluchacki down into turn number 1. He will do so. Gluchacki drops into second, and Jim George going to steal that bottom side, and Ryan Kuhn stuck on the outside. He could get freight trained here as single file for your top 3 right now. Actually, no. Gluchacki going to look to the inside. He took the opportunity, and immediately a pass on Jeremy Adams. Adams going to try and fight on the outside. Can he hold him off?
Yeah, this is definitely going to be rough on those tires. Those Cisco's, the 03 of Gluchacki. Going to look towards the inside of Jeremy Adams, still side by side as they're going through turns 1 and 2. But look just behind them, Jim George and that 11 machine trying to use the 89 as kind of a pick to use and freight train that 89 on the outside line. That's definitely not where you want to be if you're Jeremy Adams, as Gluchacki will clear that Jeremy Adams machine, take the lead on lap 17, as now Jim George working the inside as well.
Andre Fiorini, meanwhile, is trying to make the same thing happen on the inside that he was able to, that hurt him early on here. Wasn't quite able to get to Jeremy Adams, so the freight train will not be in effect here from USA. And it'll be single file through a lot of your field until we get to Max Cookson, who's worked his way up to that 10th spot. Now to the inside goes on Will Dravicki in that number 30, and looks like he's going to try and hold him off the corner. Garrett Strakoto riding his tire tracks as they head down the back straightaway.
Yeah, it's still side by side, the 39 and the 30 just behind them. Garrett Strakoto looking to see if any of them make a mistake to capitalize on that. We saw the heated battle between the 39 and the 77 early on in this race, but it looks like for the most part in the main, they are really staying civil. No shots being thrown just yet here. Cisco's, they're all trying to get through and battle it out here for the 10th place, or the 9th place position, I should say. Meanwhile, up just in front of them, Justin Egan going to look to the inside of Ken Moran Jr., trying to capture that 7th place position, as now they go off into turns 3 and 4, still side by side. Meanwhile, back up at your lead, it's going to be a 2-car breakaway as Jim George looks to try to capture the lead from Derek Gluchacki.
Yeah, Gluchacki had an excellent restart and was able to get to the inside, get the crossover on Jeremy Adams, and grab that lead. And Gluchacki, who not quite the battle at the bull ring he wanted, and he wants to redeem himself here, doing an excellent job right now. And Jim George, kind of the same story. George just could not stay out of the wars all night long in the super late models, but it looks like the street stock is where he wants to be. Done an excellent job as well, up to second right now and looking for more. Closing in on Gluchacki. He does have a little bit of a run off the corner. He might send it in here in the inside.
and he does, but the 03 gonna shut the door. Not gonna work though. Jim George gonna power through on the inside, take the lead as they now cross down the back straightaway into turns 3 and 4. Jeremy Adams looking to catch back up to Gluchaki, but look at how powerful that 11 machine is off turn 4 to cross the start finish line.
Yeah, and Jim George now has the ability to open up a little bit of a gap here on the field. He was very fast on that restart, and I think that's what he wants to do, is just kind of pull away from everybody. So 3 cars broken away. George, Gluchaki, and also Adams, who's kind of stayed with these guys, very similar to what Porter did in heat race number 2. And then it's just a mess behind him, as meanwhile Justin Egan, I think, had a attempt made at his position right now from the car right behind him of Ken Moore Jr. And several cars all nose to tail kind of through this mid-pack here. You see that battle finally finished. Will Dravicki was actually able to hold off Max Cookson in the 39. So everybody single file right now. They continue to run, but Strakota now down to the inside of Cookson. Cookson going to leave him all the room in the world, and possibly the freight train. If Richard Reagan Jr. can get to the inside, he will. Cookson going to try. Yeah, he'll slam the door closed. I'm not sure if Richard Reagan Jr. going to appreciate that very much right now. The 40 machine, all sorts of taps to the rear end. It could backfire because here comes Dawson Fletcher, who tried to take that spot away. Not going to happen. So single file through everybody here right now, but not single file without battling.
Yeah, you could just tell how upset that 40 of Richard Reagan Jr. was at Cookson, giving about 3 shots going through the corners there just to try to get that car up out of shape. The 33 of Cookson did a great job of defending that position, though, trying to keep the freight train to a minimum. Meanwhile, back up towards the front, it's a Jim George show, as he has almost pulled a second on Gluchaki. So Jim George is really putting on a clinic here on how to get through this field and get around this track, as now Gluchaki is getting back and falling back to the 89 of Jeremy Adams.
Yeah, and Jeremy Adams sitting in a position where I think he's been able to save some of those tires after he got moved earlier, as it looks like another battle. It looks like Dravicki tried to block Strakota there, so we'll keep an eye on those guys. But yeah, absolutely done a fantastic job, has Jeremy Adams, to cool those tires off. And more a case of, I think, Derek Gluchaki maybe using a lot of that car to grab the lead. And he's suffering because Jim George has opened up. It's about 1.3 seconds. And then Derek Gluchaki, Jeremy Adams, and it's really only about 4 tenths between Jeremy Adams and this giant train of street stocks as they come through turns 1 and 2, or 3 and 4.
Yeah, and leading that big train, like you mentioned, Andre Fiorini, as he is leading that 42 of Ryan Kuhn. But this train has really seen their fair share of battles here. Cisco is just looking back through the field, just a little bit, no battles really going on. Never mind, look back here between the 39 and the 30. Once again, that's going to be Max Cookson and Will Dravicki, and then just behind them, Dawson Fletcher and Richard Reagan Jr. going batter. Richard Reagan Jr. going to slam the door on that 71 machine, but still in front of them, the 39 and the 30 doing battle.
Yeah, and the 30 up on the top side able to clear. It looks like possibly issues with the 39 of Max Cookson. The connection will stable out for him a little bit, so knock the friends off the Netflix, I guess. But either way, it looks like Dustin Turnage just had a excursion through the grass. The 44 machine, all kinds of slow. And Jacob Porter down on the inside. What on earth is going on? Out of nowhere goes the Napa Blue Ridge machine. That got real sketchy all around Dustin Turnage, who I believe got a piece of the grass last time by.
Yeah, Jacob Porter did a good job to kind of keep that car under control. He was slipping and sliding down the back straightaway, but able to keep that 3 machine under him. But now he's got to battle that 28 of Adam Rigo, as he has fallen all the way back to the 13th place position. That is Jacob Porter. So huge mix-up for that 3 machine, but it looks like everybody has really single filed out. Meanwhile, the battle between Will Dravicki and Max Cookson has still raged on. Even Garrett Strakota getting involved in a little bit of it, as Will Dravicki was given a few shots there going down the into the corners of turns 1 and 2, or I should say 3 and 4 rather, as we're getting mixed up on our track here, Cisco. A lot to pay attention to.
Yeah, a very short 0.75 mile oval here, formerly in Lakeland, Florida, now demolished, but still a fantastic track. These guys showing some excellent racing action and relatively clean, all considering that first incident, kind of a miscue So these guys able to put on some really good racing action. A lot of it, I think, coming down to the speed of the cars. It makes it a lot easier, Murdoch, when you're going not quite, you know, 120 and SLM level speeds. You can have this kind of racing, and things won't get as out of hand as we see the 81 slap the wall. It's Ken Morin Jr. up on the top side. Goodbye, Garrett Strakota is going to try and make the freight train happen. You see Justin Egan all over the rear bumper of Chris Silvestri. Several teammates I'm starting to notice, the 17, the 42, and the 39 all together, as well as the 03. And, well, these guys trying to make their team known because they're all running the same paint scheme.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing this inside train really become a hindrance to some drivers. As now look at Egan get really loose going down the corner. Everybody has to check up for that 56 machine, and now the 81 is going to look to the outside of him. But as I was saying, 3 wide now going down into turns 3 and 4 as everybody's trying to settle out here, and they do. So a crazy mix of events there going on lap 36, but everybody able to single file out except for the 56 and the 81, who are now battling for that position.
Yeah, that I'm not sure what happened with the 56. Might have missed a braking point, but either way, 3 wide is not something we want to say at USA, because there's not really a whole lot of room for it, and generally it means somebody's going to end up facing the wrong way or in the wall or something. So these guys have, these passing opportunities have been relatively done well. Not a whole lot of cars have ended up, on their lid or anything yet, but remember, we're only 37 laps into a 200-lap race. Anything can break out at any moment here, Chris. And looks like the 07 of Andre Fiorini is going to try and make the outside work. Not sure if that's going to happen, because down to his inside, Chris Silvestri trying to go up a position. Number 17 machine on the inside trying to make it work through 1 and 2.
Yeah, and just behind them, that's going to be Ryan Kuhn and Ken Morin Jr. doing battle for that 7th place position. So as they are trying to single file out, Ken Morin Jr. will get that position, move him up to 6th. Now we just got to focus on that battle between the 07 and the 17. Meanwhile, you guys may be asking, why aren't you focused on the lead? What's going on with the leaders? Because if we flash back to heat 1 and 2, it was all about that lead. But if we look up towards the 11 machine of Jim George, that's almost a 4-second gap that he has put on Derek Kluchaki and Jeremy Adams, as Jeremy Adams still staying about 2/10 off of that 03 machine and closing up, as well as this train closing up to them as well.
I think the intensity that we're seeing for 2nd and 3rd is kind of born out of a little bit of frustration, because Jim George, he's so far ahead at this point that he can just cruise and save tires, Chris. When you're this close in the pack, it's really hard to do it. Look at, some of the guys around Justin Egan, Ryan Kuhn, 42 as well, or Will Dravicki. All these guys, just trying to do their best to stay on the bottom line. You aren't saving tires doing that. I think at this rate, Jim George could have kind of run the middle line, save those tires, and if anybody does catch him, if a caution comes out or something, they won't be able to have the car to challenge him. So Jim George sitting in an ideal position as we watch the battle for Strakota and Morin Jr.
Yeah, Jim George really in a win-win situation here, as you were talking about the battle between Strakota and Morin Jr. Strakota going to be on the inside of that 81 machine trying to make that pass stick. That's going to be for that 6th place position, as now the 77 still on the inside. The 81 holding his own though on the outside line. Like I mentioned, I think that inside line is making a hindrance for the run that the 77 or any driver gets when they're battling somebody, because just look at that run that Morin Jr. got off the high side. That 77's really having to check up, while the 81 has a clear track in front of him. He can really just dive it in and really get that run off and almost clear the 77.
The problem is they're trying to break away and they just can't. And Jim George, luckily, I think just down to how much battling's been going on for 2nd, 3rd, and the rest of it, it's all accordioning these guys together. I talked to Kyle a little bit kind of in the interval, and he's very happy with how the setup's been. It's been designed so that, these guys can race side by side. And, Jim George out to 4.5. I'm not sure that's exactly what Kyle was hoping for, but at least from 2nd through the rest of your field, this has been an all-out brawl. And I know Kyle's kind of laughing to himself up in the tower, because this is what he wanted to see.
Yeah, a whole lot of just close action. You got to really applaud all these drivers that are in this A main for keeping it this clean. I mean, there's battles all over the track, and then single file to be this close, to run this long. Only one caution in here, and we're getting ready to complete lap 46. So everybody's doing a great job at really completing this race. This race is really flying by, as now there's a battle between the 07 with Andre Fiorini and Ken Morin Jr. as Morin Jr. is really making that outside line work as he just completes the pass like the 07 was standing still to make his way up into the 4th place position.
Yeah, no kidding. And this is a case where just a fantastic job by Fiorini to you know, fall back in line, be able to drop to the inside, because normally when we've seen these passes go, it's all gone wrong and you get stuck on the outside, as Jeremy Adams is now trying to pass the 03 of Derek Luchacki on the outside. And I'm starting to wonder, Chris, are we seeing the turning of the tide? Is it getting too rubbered up on the inside?
And I think we are seeing that groove move up, because did you see how fast that 89 made it by that 03 of Luchacki? Jeremy Adams just might have found something by watching Ken Morin Jr. pass the 07 of Andre Fiorini on the outside, because look at how much of a gap that 89 machine has put on the 03 in just this short amount of time. I think that middle line may be the way to go, Cisco.
And it's something that, you know, we talk about a lot here on LSRTV, but we don't get to see it a whole lot. And it's that dynamic buildup of the rubber down on the inside. It's a feature that iRacing implemented at least a year and a half ago at this point, but you know, we're seeing it to its fullest extent here. These guys kind of stuck on the outside. They're having to move around and try and find room to be able to make that line work, and that's exactly what the goal was when iRacing implemented this, to bring in some multi-groove racing. These guys realizing, yeah, there's speed on the outside now. And look at Jeremy Adams. He's opened up. It's about a second now. So Adams absolutely finding speed.
And I think more drivers are following suit, because now you got the 30 of Will Dravicki and then the 17 behind him making the outside work. So I think we're only going to see this groove widen a little bit, because you're only getting one set of tires. We just crossed the 1/4 mark at 50 laps at 50 laps here, so still a whole lot of racing to go, Cisco. But early on, contact between the 24 of Jimmy Mullis and the 30 of Will Dravicki. But the outside line may really be way to go, and we might see it widen out just a little bit more.
Yeah, and this is a case where it's almost you don't want to get pitched down on the inside. You know, 20 laps ago, we were talking about guys trying to hold that inside, and I mentioned Andre Fiorini because he had jumped to the inside to defend that position. Now look where he is, up on the top side, and you see the run. It gets you a lot of run to the inside, but just no speed off the corner, and that's... You kind of see it with Jimmy Mullis. Will hop on board, at least for the moment here, so we can see kind of what we're talking about. And the 07, look at the drive off the corner. That's where so much speed is being made, as it gets very, very argy-bargy, as Jake Sperry would say, for a moment through 1 and 2. And the 30 now going to get shuffled out. It's 3 wide. Hello.
Oh, contact made. Oh, caution's going to be out somewhere deeper in the field. I thought it was going to be that 3 line right there, but a driver around bringing this crazy action to a halt, as it's going to be that 28 of Adam Rigo.
And saw him down on the flat, and it was a little bit more spaced out about where he was alongside. That's Dustin Turnage in the 44. And not quite sure what happened with the 28. He was to the inside, so I'm wondering maybe a slight assist from Turnage, and yeah, that's exactly what it looks like it was. 44 just sent it in from at least a car length and a half back, and Chris, that's what happens when you send it in from a car length and a half back. You're basically going to turn the guy in front of you. That's exactly what happened to Rigo, and around he went.
Exactly, and that was really just, you know, an incident. Yeah, no need for that by Dustin Turnage, and especially this early in the race with, you know, like I mentioned, crossing that 50 lap mark. Still a whole lot of racing left to go, but if you're one driver who really does not want to see that, it's going to be the 11 of Jim George, because we were just talking about that outside lane speed, Cisco. Jeremy Adams had found something, put a gap at about a second on Derek Luchacki, and now it's all bets are off, because that outside line is really going to work.
Yeah, it will. And Jim George, I think, has to worry, because if he knew that Jeremy Adams broke away from the rest of the field, and he wasn't really catching him, but he was maintaining, and that seems like a very Jeremy Adams move to me, Chris. We've seen it so much between MBSS and the Cars Esport Tour. This is something Jeremy's very good at. He's very good at having late run cars and being able to just sit there and maintain. So these guys, they got the caution. I asked Kyle just now what the fuel situation was, because I wasn't sure if they were going to make it to the end. No, they weren't, but they got a caution here, Chris, and this is their second caution, obviously, so they are good to the end on fuel, so they don't have to worry about that. And of course, you can't take tires. So if you're Jim George, you're Jeremy Adams, these are the guys. I think Jim George still is going to be by far in the best tire situation, just down the fact that he wasn't around anybody else. Jeremy Adams probably second best on that tire just because he was able to break away.
Exactly, Cisco, and if they ever have to come down to get that fuel, which way it will, they're not going to make it. Can't take tires. You got to make sure there's no communication errors on the box. You got to communicate to your spotter to take those tires off. Make sure no pit crew member is going to be over the wall, because I'm going to assume that's an instant DQ by taking fresh tires. So always going to make sure that there is no mistakes on pit road as they're doubling up as lights are off on the pace car.
Well, it's a 200-lap enduro, and it's going to be 142 laps left to go here from the USA International Speedway, the CEA New Year's Street Stock Nationals. Cisco's Garmuza, Chris Murdoch along with you to bring you all the action. Pace car down to the inside. Jim George going to be on the loud pedal here. Green flag back in the air. We're back racing.
Yeah, Jim George getting a good start on the inside line with maybe a little help from the 03 of Gluchaki. Now look at Jeremy Adams on the outside. We saw how good that outside line would be, and look at the run. That 89 machine got off of turn 2, going to be even with that 11 car going down into turn number 3 and 4 as that outside line is coming, Cisco. Going to be side by side still coming out of turn 4. Who's going to get the restart lap? It is going to be Jeremy Adams. Jeremy Adams leads that time by, so that just shows you how fast and how good that outside line and that 89 machine is.
This is not the race we started in. Things have already began to shift, as it looks like big checkup towards the rear of your field. And I wasn't sure what the car was, but we saw it kind of on that static shot coming off of turn number 2. I think it was 3 wide back there. So some bumping and shoving kind of in the middle of your pack. Also seeing it kind of towards the foreground there. It was the blue car, I want to say that was Paul Henley in the 16, but things getting all sorts of roughed up here because these guys starting to realize they want to be on that outside. And we're starting to see some Kansas syndrome come into play here, Chris, where everybody's going to try and get to the outside, and it's a weird feeling to have to do that, but we've seen it. Things get a little bit more crazier because drivers aren't normally used to trying to have to go up there. They're going to have to now as Jeremy Adams clears Jim George, and Andre Fiorini going to try and make the freight train on the outside. It looks like the train switched tracks.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, especially from my position here in the booth here, Cisco, to watch these cars go around this track and almost see that inside line vacant. All we see is really Jim George on that inside line, but now he's going to be able to get up on the outside and try to follow Jeremy Adams through. It's very different. Like you mentioned, it's not the race we started out with where everybody was hugging that yellow line. Looks like now the track has really changed, because now you can see Jeremy Adams really hugging that inside line, yellow line. So that's just how quick the track really changes here.
And Jimmy Mullis is starting to work his way into this picture. The driver that was so good in the CEA battle at the Bull Ring and had it taken away from him has the opportunity to redeem himself a little bit. Jimmy was so fast in that race, and the K1 speed entry doesn't look a whole lot different from that SLM. He loves that paint scheme, and it's a fast car at that, the Chevrolet Camaro, as he dives through the corner this time and up to 4th spot right now. Has done an excellent job. Started 7th, has worked his way through this field, Chris, and right on the back bumper right now of Andre Fiorini right now. And Fiorini, another driver, the driver out of Canada, doing an excellent job right now as they come to complete lap number 65.
Yeah, that 07 has really done a very, very good job at really keeping pace, because we saw him start second. He's fallen back a little bit. Now he sits, he was able to work his way back up and now sits third in this race, but he's very good at spotting when the track changes and how to really capitalize on other drivers' mistakes, because while everybody was running that outside line, Cisco, he was back running the inside line, was able to pick up a few positions and be back in the third place position. Now look at the 24 of Jimmy Mullis, gets a little bit too hot going down into 1 and 2, gonna have to check up a little bit and lose his momentum on Andre Fiorini, and now got to fight Chris Silvestri, now looking towards the inside of that machine.
And Chris Silvestri is a name that we've seen kind of hanging around here on LSR. He's been in the comments section some nights, he's been on track other nights, but this is a driver who we've yet to see, I think, reach his full potential and battle for these victories. Silvestri doing an excellent job right now in that number 17 machine. Started 9th, sitting 5th right now, and looking, like you said, for an opportunity to get past Jimmy Mullis here. And oh, by the way, if you're curious, oh yeah, Garrett Strakota and his buddies. Well, Garrett right now sitting 6th right now. I'd say Jacob Porter having a rough night after a rough second heat race. He's sitting 23rd right now, and Max Cookson sitting 14th right now. So that's where our heat 2 aggressive drivers were, but caution back out just as we say that, and it's
huge
a big pile up.
Wreck.
There's a car sitting upside down right now. I believe it might be Mason Dunn, the 51, but what on earth happened?
And we'll have to take a look at it here. It looks like it started with contact between Rocky Boyd and Mason Dunn going down into the first corner there. Just gets the 51 gets into the 25, gets him a little bit out of shape, and just drivers unable to check up. We have the 10 just able to spin him around, and the 44, Dustin Turnage, and then the 88 gets into him. Very slow roll for that 51 machine, up and over on his roof. A whole lot of carnage happened in 1 and 2, Cisco.
And it was the 88 with the final blow that knocks the 51, or the I guess it looks like somewhat like a 15 now, because he was sitting upside down. We'll take a second look, and right on board the 88, Matt Shinowski there. But that's never something you're used to seeing at a short track like this, Chris, and it means something went horribly, horribly wrong, and such was the case here. And just, yeah, like you said, drivers not able to check up, and a little bit of aggressive driving there, and yep, here we go, locks it up, and just Shinowski tried to get on the binders there, and next thing you know, it's car flipped over for Mason Dunn. It's going to be probably his shot at a win just out the window at this point for the 51 Valvoline machine, and he had to take the tow back to pit road, so he'll have to sit on pit road for that, and yeah, it's still something we're not used to seeing a whole lot of cars flipped over at USA.
Yeah, and it all plays a factor with that 14 degrees of banking, Cisco, because you can see the 51 was already sitting on that apron, which had already had that car propped up a weird way, and then that 88 machine came in, and it was such a slow roll for that 51 machine of Mason Dunn, so all plays part into the banking. We mentioned that USA, from a standpoint, really looks like a flat track, but that just goes to show that it's really not. There is a 14 degrees of banking here that really plays a huge part into this race. Meanwhile, if we look up front, we saw Jeremy Adams, who started on the pole, was falling back to about 3rd, and then found some resurgence on the outside line to regain the lead from Jim George. He still maintains that lead as Jim George sits 2nd. Andre Fiorini sits 3rd, Jimmy Mullis 4th, and Chris Silvestri is your top 5. So that's how your top 5 looks right now.
Yeah, your top 10 will go even further. Garrett Strakota, Derek Luchacki, Ken Morin Jr., Richard Reagan Jr., and Will Javicki round out your top 10 right now. And field behind the pace car lights are out, and Jeremy Adams once again going to be in control here, and Jim George on that preferred outside line. The roles are reversed from the last restart. Let's see if Jim George can capitalize up there and make the pass on the 89 of Jeremy Adams. Pace cars in this time. Field going to be in the hands, and I believe it was Jim George going to be able to get a great restart. Green flag back in the air, and they're side by side for the lead back into turn number 1.
side by side, and they had a little bit of a gap as there was contact between Chris Silvestri and another driver back there going down into turn 3. Chris Silvestri getting a little bit out of shape, now going to be moved to the outside as Andre Fiorini looks to the inside. More contact between the 40 of Richard Reagan Jr. and the 81 of Morgan, and now in the wall goes the 81 as now he's trying to battle Will Dravicki going down in the corner.
That was the 89, got shunted into the wall by Jim George. We're not watching the NBA, we're watching racing. And maintaining the outside is Jeremy Adams into turn number 3. And Adams trying to make the outside work. We're going to have lap traffic come up here, and that's going to be real sketch. And Jim George very loose on the inside, but it looks like lap traffic got very much out of the way. Your leaders did not want to play a factor, and Jeremy Adams not at all going to be happy with the number 11 machine.
Yeah, multiple drivers hitting the lap the wall that lap. Jeremy Adams being one of them, and then Ken Moran Jr. back there with Will Dravicki had a little bit of a scuffle with the 40 of Richard Reagan Jr. got sent up into the wall. So everybody is starting to have the gloves come off here as now Jimmy Mullis looks to the inside of a wounded Jeremy Adams machine, and he might be able to make the pass on the inside, but Jeremy Adams still able to hang on as Jim George leads going down into 3 and 4.
And the 24 of Jimmy Mullis, I think, using that inside just to get past the, as you mentioned, the wounded machine of Jeremy Adams. Adams hit the wall extremely hard that time, and you can see he's maintaining pace with Mullis, who's on the inside, and that tells me the 89 not very fast right now. Is Fiorini having a little bit of an issue, and that's going to cause a problem. He'll go around. Caution is out. And Fiorini, already a unstable ISP, is going to backfire for him, and Strakota will get the assist on that one, and it was the 07. I'm not sure how much of that we're going to be able to show, but Strakota, I think, just kind of warped through him a little bit there, and unstable internet connection for the 07, and it pays for him big time.
Yeah, it really does, but it really worked in the favor of Dawson Fletcher, because as the 07 was really warping in, Dawson really drove straight through that 07 machine, but doesn't look to be picking up too much damage. But unfortunate for Andre Fiorini, he was doing so well in this race so far, but contact, so to speak, with Strakota is going to send him back a few positions.
And yeah, that's going to send, I would assume, that Fiorini, he's sitting in 10th right now, so he did manage to grid out. Looks like everything's back stable on the 07. He's not jumping around as he was earlier, so a case where I think had to shut down maybe a device or two and make sure that the Wi-Fi wasn't getting stolen or whatever the case may be, but it looks like things sorted out for the 07 now. So we pace under our 3rd yellow flag, though. Or 4th, I should say. This is our 4th caution flag, and with that, I think we're going to take a moment, step aside, grab some water. You're watching LSRTV's coverage of the New Year's Street Stock Nationals by CEA. We'll go non-stop so you don't miss a moment of the action. Be right back here on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Back live here on LSRTV. Lights are out on the Ford Mustang pace car, and the field in the hands of Jim George as we get back racing. Green flag back in your air for coverage. The CEA New Year's Street Stock Nationals here from USA International Speedway. Cisco Scaramuza alongside Chris Murdoch to bring you all the action. And the story has been the migration from the bottom of the racetrack up to the top, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now as Jim George currently leads the field right now. Right behind him, Jimmy Mullis, the driver out of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, who's had much success, but not a win yet here on LSRTV. In the CEA Specials is caution back out, and it's more problems. It looks like it's around possibly CJ Mason, that 33 machine. He's missing a front bumper.
Yeah, CJ Mason maybe looking to have a lot of contact on that 33 machine, and he really did, as it looks like the contact started in front of him between Fiorini and that 25 machine coming out of the corner, and then it looks like he was not able to really get it woed down and plowed into that contact and lose his front bumper hard on the inside pit wall and into the grass.
Yeah, that was Tanner Cook, not Andre Fiorini. Yeah, like you said, the 33 kind of comes off towards the end of there trying to lock it up. And the 33 just ends up in the grass there, so problems. We'll ride on board with him before we get back to your live picture, but Gal Barnes coming over the race director radio letting us know that that was one more of these cautions right in a row, and we're going to single file restarts to try and get some green flag racing. So the admins having to take it into their hands to try and get these guys going for some green flag. And right now, Jim George continues to lead and has been using these pace laps and been able to hold on so far here, Chris.
Yeah, he's really been able to hold that lead. Jimmy Mullis was proving a tough test for that 11 machine, but Jim George able to stick in front of that 24 as Jimmy Mullis, like you've mentioned, having much success in other series, now coming here to try to capture the short track victory. And he's looking very strong, started 7th, now up to 2nd, and he looks like he's not going to stop there as the wave around car will speed by your leaders. Meanwhile, Jeremy Adams, who's been wounded a little bit, will be all the way back in that 4th place position, with Chris Silvestri moving up to 3rd.
Yeah, and Silvestri going to have the opportunity. He'll be stuck on the inside, though, Chris, and we mentioned it when we came back from break, but if you've been with us all night long, you've been seeing us talk non-stop about the fact that the rubber has been building up on that inside, and drivers have been moving to the outside to try and find a little bit more speed. And that definitely helped Jim George out because he was in a battle with Jeremy Adams. But Adams, of course, suffering a large hit into the wall during our last longer green flag stint. And you can see the damage on the right front of the number 89 machine has pushed him back to about the 4th, 5th place position right now. So the 89 of Jeremy Adams sits in a precarious position where he's kind of just trying to ride this out and hoping the damage isn't too serious on that car. And for everybody else, it's been basically like a iRacing race at Kansas because these guys have been trying to stay to the outside and not get bogged down on the inside where they've been losing so much time.
And you've hit the nail really on the head there, Cisco. The driver is doing such a great job at moving around, finding the speed, and also keeping it clean. If you're just joining us, don't let those past 2 cautions really hinder you from sticking out this entire race, because we've completed 89 laps and have only had 3 or 4 cautions here and there. So there's been a lot of action-packed green flag racing battles going all over the place. We've seen our fair share of 3 wide, and we've even seen a car flipped over, Cisco. So this race providing everything that a casual viewer may need to stick for some great racing, as the lights will go off on the pace car and they'll double them up for this to go back green.
Yeah, double them up this time, and it's Jim George, Jimmy Mullis, the 17 of Chris Silvestri, Jeremy Adams in the 89, and Derek Luchacki in that 03, and throwing Garrett Strakota. That's your top 3 rows. It's the pace car leads them down, at least for this last caution period, for the final time, through 3 and 4. And he'll head to pit road, and the field will be in the hands once again of Jim George in the number 11 street stock, and we'll see what he can do as he heads for the green flag. Once again, it's out, and we're away back here racing at USA.
And look, the 89 not getting the start he wanted to. They're going to be 3 wide going down to the turn number 1. The Jeremy Adams machine going to get pushed way wide. There looks like there was almost contact between the 81 and the 56. Cars all over the place. Meanwhile, up at the front, caution going to be out once again as Jimmy Mullis may have had the lead on the 11. No, the 11 will take back the lead from Jimmy Mullis.
And it's Paul Henley, the 16 machine, and that will be the final straw. We will be going to single file restarts now, but the 16 getting caught up, I believe, with the 4 I saw of Randy Yoakum. We'll see what happened, and this time it was around Fiorini. The number 4 dives it in. The 25 just dives it into the corner and just collects the 4 of Yoakum, and nowhere for the 16 of Paul Henley to go. Yoakum comes back down the track and nowhere for him to go, so that'll be it. And well, Chris, we're going to single file restarts here, so Kyle Barnes, the race director, trying to get us some green flag action here. That means we're going to have a very long single file pack back to your restart next time.
Yeah, it was really the straw that broke the camel's back here, Cisco, as Kyle Barnes' hand will be forced. We'll be moving to single file restarts. Jim George going to assume the lead back after Jimmy Mullis was able to lead a lap or two there before that caution had come out. But meanwhile, trouble for that 89 machine of Jeremy Adams all the way back to 7th place. He started on that outside row 2 and just did not get the run that he needed. Got forced 3 wide way up the track, and now there he sits in that 7th place position. So from bad to worse for that 89 of Jeremy Adams.
I'm almost wondering, Chris, if it might be worth it just to come down pit road, get that damage fixed. Unless it's a tire problem and Adams knows it, this is going to be a case where I'm not sure there's much he can do right now if he stays in this position, because we saw him not get a good restart, and that car has just looked a little bit slower than the rest in the field. So the longer he stays out here, the less time he's going to be able to make up if he gets that car repaired. So if I was Jeremy Adams, I'd just come down now, get it repaired, and work my way back through the field. Because as it sits right now, he's just losing spots every restart this time.
You're exactly right, Cisco. And for a field that has started with 34 cars to be down to 28 drivers on the lead lap, that's absolutely amazing. Being on 1 set of tires, I'm just now coming across the line to complete lap number 94. So everybody doing a very good job at keeping their cars clean, having the pace to stay up there, stay on the lead lap. 28 cars still remain on that lead lap, so very, very good job by all these drivers. Even though we've had a few cautions in the last few laps, going to single file restarts, everybody really doing a good job to keep their cars clean.
Yeah, and this is going to be a case where they're not going to have much of a choice to have a clean restart here, Chris, because single file, I mean, you look behind our leader Jim George, that's a lot of cars. These guys are going to be stretching probably all the way back to turns 3 and 4 when they come out of or stretching back to 1 and 2 when they come out of turns 3 and 4. We'll get a wide picture, but this is going to be a long train of cars, so I'm sure these guys not terribly happy about the move, but, well, Kyle saw that he had to step in, and it's been kind of a long time tradition here on CEA where if we do get too many cautions, this usually does bring us some green flag racing. So I'm expecting no different here. We had a great green flag run for kind of the opening stints of this race. We're probably going to have that regardless here. So see Derek Luchacki down there on the inside, the 03, trying to maybe test out his throttle here for when we get the green flag this time. But Jim George will lead the field as they'll take the extreme outside. He's going to wind them all up here as we get ready to fire back in for some green flag racing.
Yeah, pace car gonna go towards the inside. The 11 gonna be off and away. Single file restarts, green flag in the air. Jim George off to a great start going down into turns 1 and 2 as Jimmy Mullis will try to stay on the back bumper to that 11 machine. Just behind him, the 17 of Chris Silvestri and Derek Luchacki doing battle, trying to get all the positions they can, making it single file through 1 and 2 down the back straightaway and into 3 and 4. Everybody seems to be making it through, as not very many runs are happening right now, as there's a big stretch between the 77 and the 40. That's going to be Garrett Strakota and Richard Reagan Jr. back, so don't know if there was a huge checkup between them, but Richard Reagan Jr. having to fight off Jeremy Adams, who is definitely not happy with how his night's been going.
Yeah, and Luchacki at this point, sitting in a position where he's been around all day and just hasn't been in the lead for a whole lot of it. So he's sitting in a position, though he's got a teammate right near him with Chris Silvestri right in front of him, actually. And then a couple teammates further behind, but kind of a split up for this top group. About 4 cars broken away. Then you got Garrett Strakoda, who's out in the middle of no man's land. Then you got Richard Reagan Jr. and a whole mess of cars behind him. Jeremy Adams, Justin Egan, and looks like Ken Moore Jr. amongst others. And one car just got very loose over. He's flipping through the air. Caution is out. I think that might have been Dawson Fletcher.
Dawson Fletcher in the 71 machine gonna be around just as we're getting ready to cross that halfway point. Cisco, caution will be out once again, and it will be that 71 machine. We'll try to see what happened here getting down into turns 3 and 4. Just maybe just not a huge checkup. He did get on that apron and got that car really loose. Will Dravicki had nowhere to go, and he just collided with the bottom of that 71 machine. As coming off that wall, the Dawson Fletcher car had, left all 4 wheels. So single file restarts will still be a thing as caution comes out hard, as Jim George still remains your leader.
And if you're Jacob Porter, I have no idea how he made it through that, but we're gonna hop on board with him for that, because that was insane. And we saw the upside down car of Dawson Fletcher, and Porter somehow, just I think purely by pure luck, was able to make it past that. We'll ride on board with him here as we'll cross our halfway point here. We'll catch up with the midway race break when we can, but we got to show you this, because the 71 goes in the air. Porter locks up the rear tires thinking, oh boy, here we go, this is all over, and somehow I think only collects very, very slight cosmetic damage. I have no idea how Porter made it through that, but the luck was on his side that time.
It really was, and that has to be, a clinch the wheel and just hope you make it through moment for him, as he was really just trying to get through, and he did. So props to Jacob Porter for actually making it through that by, I guess, like you mentioned, Cisco, sheer luck. But we'll get ready to not really double them up, but stay single file and get this race back under green.
Yeah, absolutely. Still about a lap and a half of pacing to go, so we'll run you quickly through your iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's leading on online racing simulation. Jim George right now sits in the first position, Jimmy Mullis second, Chris Silvestri third, fourth going to go to Derek Gluchacki, Garrett Strakoda going to start right now, restart fifth, sixth going to go to Richard Reagan Jr., seventh to Jeremy Adams, eighth going to go to Justin Egan, ninth to Ken Moore Jr., and Gabriel Mauricio going to round out your top 10. Max Cookson right now running 11th, 12th going to go to Ryan Kuhn, Jacob Porter running 13th, 14th going to go to Trent Goodrow, and rounding out your top 15 right now, Andrew Cardinal.
16th goes to Adam Rigo. Robert Vormwald going to be 17th. Andre Fiorini is going to be 18th. Tyler Simmons 19th. 20th, Paul Henley. Randy Yoakum is going to be 21st. Aaron Smith going to be 22nd. Dustin Turnage is going to be 23rd. 24th goes to Tanner Cook. 24th goes to Rocky Boyd the third. Dustin Turnage is going to be 25th. 26th is going to go to Will Dravicki. Dawson Fletcher going to be 28th. 29th is going to go to Mason Dunn. Matt Shinovsky is going to be 30th, 31. CJ Mason. Jeremy Watkins is going to be 32nd. Luis Calderon, 33rd. And 34th is going to be Brian Simpson.
That's a look at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And, well, the World of Outlaws promo doesn't really work anymore, so if you do want to look for a promo code, check out iRacing and look up iRacing alongside Global Rallycross over on Google. That'll probably get you to the GRC page, and I know they're doing some discounts on that content as well. So yeah, look up Global Rallycross alongside iRacing.com, Chris.
Global Rallycross is about as much fun as I've had on the sim in a while, as well as Knoxville. Don't forget about that Knoxville Speedway being released with all that new dirt content. So a lot of great content coming your way as Pace Car goes off.
Oh yeah, and the Chili Bowl, it's coming soon as well. Green flag back in the air, Jim George on the loud pedal, and a very good jump on Jimmy Mullis, who right now continues to run second. Single file once again. We're in this mode for a little while here as we'll go single file through 1 and 2. First side by side is kind of background, I think that's Max Cooks, and yes, it is. Going to make the move for 10th spot over Gabriel Mauricio.
Yeah, getting it through the top 10 as now Cookson looks to the inside of the 04, maybe gonna clear him, and he does as the 04 of Mauricio gets into the wall. That's gonna open the door for Ryan Kuhn to make his pass and get by that 04 machine. So trouble for Gabriel Mauricio early on the restart. Meanwhile, up front, Jimmy Mullis not really leaving the back bumper of Jim George, going down and even gives a shot to the 11 machine going into turns 3 and 4, trying to get past, trying to regain the lead, and he is there all over the back bumper of the 11, looking towards the inside, going down into turns 1 and 2, and he's gonna get there. Gonna be even with Jim George going down. Gonna be side by side coming out of turn 2.
Yeah, side by side continuing. Mullis still there, down on the inside, gonna try and make it stick into turn number 3, and he's got 2 teammates behind him. Silvestri Gluchaki, is caution gonna come out once again, and it's problems, I believe, with Robert Vormwald in the number 10 Halvoline entry. And yellow flag out once again, and the 10 does not look particularly happy. We'll take a second look and find out what happened to that driver, but caution once again flying, and it's a lot of rear field incidents right now here, Chris.
It looks like contact between Robert Vormwald and Andre Fiorini in that 07, just getting the 07 of Fiorini just getting too high out of the corner, it looks like, and making contact with that 10 of Vormwald, and Vormwald tried to save it. As you can see, the tire marks down the back straightaway sliding, but unfortunately unable to do so, and caution will be back out here once again just past lap 108. So I'm gonna slow it back down and stack them back up again, Cisco.
And of course, remind you that these guys stuck on the same set of tires, so the more, if you get spun out in a caution, you can't come down and get for Mr. Feelgoods. Kind of out of luck at that moment, but we're past halfway, so we're gonna step aside once again and take you LSRTV non-stop so you don't miss a moment of the action. Back really quickly here from USA International Speedway. You're watching the CEA Street Stock Nationals on your home for sim racing, LSRTV.
Red Bull GRCs are now available on iRacing. I personally put my blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, developing the cars, the tracks, the dirt, making sure it is authentic as possible, and I really think you guys are going to love it. The best part is that this 600 horsepower Volkswagen Beetle is free to all members. So get signed up now and come race me online.
The yellow flag is out. Pit road is now open. Keep your eye on those gauges. We'll give you 4 tyres. 3, 2, 1, now. We're done. Get going.
Back live here from USA International Speedway for the CEA New Year's Street Stock Nationals here on your home for sim racing, iRacing, or LSRTV. Cisco Scaramuza alongside Chris Murdoch as we continue to pace and get ready to take the green flag once again as Jimmy Mullis, who stole the lead away from Jim George under that last green flag stint, he's going to lead the field to the green flag this time. 7th lap led for Jimmy Mullis as he goes under the flag stand. Green flag back in the air, back to turn number 1.
Jimmy Mullis having a great restart as well, as he was able to gap himself or put a little bit of a distance between him and Jim George. Now that 11 machine trying to hold off the 17 of Chris Silvestri. Meanwhile, behind Silvestri and them, we got Strakota and Richard Reagan Jr. doing a little bit of a battle behind them. And then behind them, Jeremy Adams just trying to make his way up through the field cleanly, as there's already a little bit of damage you see on the right front to that car all the way back in 7th. Meanwhile, still up towards the front, we're going to have a little bit of a sneak peek of a battle for the 2nd place, as Chris Silvestri looks to the inside of Jim George, but it ended up thinking better of it. So tightly packed group here battling for this lead.
Yeah, the 17 of Silvestri right now all over the back bumper. The 11 as they run through 1 and 2 once again and looking for the opportunity to get by him here. And George actually looking to the inside of Mullis while he's having to worry about the car behind him. So 2 cars maybe trying to freight train, but it looks like these guys up a little bit of a tap there from Jim George to the 24. Jimmy Mullis loosens him up a little bit. Is that going to be George's opportunity? He has a nose in down on the inside. He will send it in, so side by side for the lead right now. Jim George on the inside, Jimmy Mullis on the outside as they apex off the corner, side by side continuing. And Jim George bump drafting right now with Chris Silvestri into 3.
And we've seen this track progress so much that the outside is really not a bad place to be right now, Cisco, as Jimmy Mullis is really holding his own on the outside of Jim George as he's going through 1 and 2 once again. Now still side by side, the 11 and 24 go as you see the 24 getting really tight, as another caution will be out here just past lap 118. As they'll slow him back down. Jimmy Mullis looks to have been passed by Jim George.
Yeah, looks like George was able to grab that spot, but it's Strakota problems early and or kind of mid-race here, and looks like maybe an assist from Richard Reagan Jr. Not quite sure what happened, but the 77 sitting kind of all alone and maybe just, yep, a little bit of a dive in here. And yeah, the 40 just kind of rolled the center and just tapped the 77, and that's all it took. Strakota up into the outside wall, turned it up in there, and that's all she wrote. So the Midwest Street Stock is going to pull it behind the wall, and that'll be night over for Garrett Strakota. His shot at winning this thing has all gone up in smoke, literally, and has pulled that car behind the wall, and he'll be done for this evening. And that will earn, I think, Richard Reagan Jr. possibly a trip to the rear of your field. And yep, that's exactly what's going on. He waits, and he'll be at the rear of your field, as has been the way they've been doing it all night long. And the caution out once again here. 80 laps to go once we reach the line here, Chris. And this second half of the race has started to drag on a little bit. Obviously, we've had a lot of yellows. The tires have been going away on these cars, and that's contributed to some of the issues, but a lot of it, I think, is just drivers being a little bit impatient.
And that's really it. You know, we're on lap 120 now, so the laps are winding down a little bit, so you are going to see those drivers get more aggressive, Cisco, as Mason Dunn gets around for the wave around, but you're going to see drivers get more, getting more and more aggressive. And you know, 18 minutes has gone by since we hit that lap 100 mark, and we've only completed 21 laps, so you can just see how aggressive and how many drivers really want to win this race.
And Jim George, as we're seeing on screen and has been told to me by race director Kyle Barnes, goes from stealing the lead as the caution came out to the back of the field for clowning around on the radio. He said he was abusing the radio and just generally being disruptive, and apparently that was enough, and Kyle had enough of it, so the 11 is being sent to the back. And Chris, I mean, it's like a personal foul in the fourth quarter. You don't want to be costing yourself the game, and that might have been what Jim George just did.
And I really think with the amount of cautions we've seen in the second half of this race, Cisco, plus just the sheer amount of cars that we've had in this race, we've seen Randy Yoakum go to the back from a start, from a spin just a little bit, and he was all the way back in 34th when all cars were still on the lead lap, and he's only made his way up to 13th. And you got to think back to how long ago that wreck is. So I mean, if anything, Jim George may have just sealed his fate in winning this race, because it's going to be a hard fought battle for him to get anywhere even close to the front of this field again.
And of course, we mentioned in-race chatter because, of course, iRacing features, you know, obviously you could talk to the other drivers in there. It's like any other online game. So, of course, you know, you have those people you get sick of when you're playing Call of Duty who are on the radio all the time screaming. And, well, apparently Kyle Barnes decided that the 11 was having a little too much fun on the radio and has been sent to the rear. So, yes, he did, in fact, mess up No TV. And with that, Jimmy Mullis will inherit the lead. Second, going to go to Chris Silvestri. Third is going to be his teammate, Derek Luchacki. Jeremy Adams sitting fourth. Ken Morin Jr. rounds out your top five as the pace car continues with its lights on here, Chris. And at this point, we're just waiting. We should get the restart here, I believe. 76 laps to go.
Yeah, 76 laps to go. Cisco, as race control has been has added an extra lap onto the pace in here. Now we'll see the lights go off on the pace car once again, so making sure everybody gets in their respective positions. Make sure Jim George gets all the way back to all these cars, because meanwhile I still have 24 cars on the lead lap, Tyler Simmons being that last car on the lead lap. Now it will cycle out to be Jim George, started 6th all the way back to 24. So really tough break for that 11 car, because we saw how dominant he was up towards the front. But Jimmy Mullis will command the start, as the pace car is going to be looking down towards the inside to get this race going again.
Yeah, Mullis will lead his 16th lap here from the USA International Speedway. Back underway here, green flag in the air. 76 laps to go at the line, and Mullis out to an early lead, about a car length or so over Chris Silvestri through turns 1 and 2. Side by side, meanwhile, back around looks like Gabriel Mauricio under attack once again. It's the 42 of Ryan Kuhn to his inside, and Kuhn's gonna finish that pass off, and that'll open the door for Jacob Porter, who might try and freight train. No, Mauricio gonna drop down and steal that lane back. But we're back to that bottom side, I think, being a little bit better here, Chris, and the tires have had time to cool down during the pace laps, and I think that's primarily what's allowed these guys to be able to utilize that bottom side again.
Yeah, the tires have really cooled down over these caution laps, and we've had a few of them, so it's able to get these cars back to as close to the beginning as they're really going to get. As you see Jimmy Mullis kind of pull out about a 3/10 gap on that 17 of Chris Silvestri just by holding that yellow line. So everybody really getting back to business here, as we've had green flag laps, 3 wide no less in the back. That's going to be the 39 of Cookson, 56 of Egan, and the 42 of Kuhn gonna get it. Egan gonna back out just a bit there to let the 42 and the 39 do battle, but that got really hairy going through 3 and 4.
Yeah, and side by side, yeah, it will be 3 wide. The 56 Egan trapped down on the inside underneath the apron, and the 39 not at all happy with the 04 who's been crowding him, and this is getting out of control very quickly right now. It's Justin Egan keeps getting trapped on the apron. Jacob Porter going to get bunched out of the way, as it were, and stuck up on the top side now. He'll get freight trained by the 5 of Trent Goodrow, and Adam Rigo also in the 28. So the 3 trying to make the outside work. There's not a lot of speed. He will get back past Adam Rigo here. Won't be able to secure that position, though, but the 39, and now Porter dives it in on the 5 here. So a lot of drivers kind of in this mid-pack here, not very happy with each other.
And if you think back to heat number 2 with Cookson, Porter, and Strakota, the 39 was really not afraid to throw bumps or give payback, and he looked very unhappy with Mauricio there in that 04 machine, as now Egan will look to the inside of him going through 3 and 4, but he's not going to quite be there just yet. So the 39 will hold on to 8th place for another lap, but now Jacob Porter gonna find his way back, getting up on the outside line. So that's going to be a 3-car battle now for the 8th place position, as Cookson is being overrun with the 56 machine. As I heard the tire screeching, caution's going to be out once again.
And it looks to be possibly issues
16.
Yeah, Paul Henley, 16. Yeah, I was looking for see who it was. There was a couple cars kind of trapped behind him here. We'll take a second look, and it looks like possibly some cars being parked here, as we're hearing from race control. We'll find out for that in a moment.
Meanwhile, Randy Yoakum.
Yeah,
Randy Yoakum was it?
Oh,
Randy
it was
Yoakum as getting into the 25 rather of Rocky
That's
Boyd, who's actually gotten parked due to that contact with Randy Okum. Randy Okum got sent for a spin going through the corner, and there was just nowhere for the 70, the 22, or the 16 to go. Even the 96 of Tanner Cook getting squeaking by and getting some damage there. So just nowhere to go for all those drivers, as Randy Okum was just... It was just a really, like we mentioned earlier, Cisco, an unnecessary dive to the bottom by Rocky Boyd, and since has got him parked from the race and will not be able to complete this feature.
And that was his third incident, so, you know, even by normal CEA rule standards, he would have been done anyway, but with that, Kyle said, nope, he's gone, and goodbye car number 25. So another dive bomb, and it does not work out for him. So we're back under yellow here at USA International. 67 laps to go at the line, and the one car that's made his way through this field has been, we mentioned him a little bit, but Jacob Porter started back. He started in 13th, and he fell back, Chris. He was back in the 20s for a good chunk of this race, and has slowly waited and maybe muscled his way through this field, and is now sitting 10th. And it doesn't surprise me that Porter's made his way back through, but showing a lot of patience has been that driver of the Napa Chevrolet. And it's exactly, if I could English for the rest of this broadcast here, it's exactly what I mentioned at the top of this feature. Patience is going to be key, as Jacob Porter is really showing here, because like you mentioned, started 13th, fell back into a little bit of a mid-pack where there was a lot of mix-ups, and we mentioned one wreck where he narrowly avoided it. So just being in the right place, right time, having Lady Luck on his side, and a little bit of patience thrown in there is really proven good for that 3 machine, as now he's 10 cars away from that 24 of Jimmy Mullis, who has been putting on a show here, leading the race a little bit, as well as getting a few little helps from these cautions, but definitely showing that he belongs up there in the front. Yeah, and another driver obviously we've been keeping our eyes on is Max Cookson, who's now sitting in the 8th position, and will actually be getting sent to the rear. So it looks like the 39, he was weaving under caution. We'll have to see what that was, but looks like the 39 now being sent to the rear. I'll see what that was for, but either way, looks like several drivers here reaching their incident, or their caps here, getting second incidents, or just clowning around on the radio. It's not something I can hear, so we'll have to get confirmation from race control what happened on that incident. But Jimmy Mullis continues to lead here, Chris.
And it looks like Max Cookson is being black flagged for his inability to maintain pace in a single file.
What just happened? The 39 just piled. It was the 4 was checked up on the outside. We just had a massive incident under caution, and we'll wind back the cameras. The 27 was trying to catch up with the field, and the 90 just absolutely, if Jeremy Watkins just pile drove the 4 of Randy Okum, was not at all paying attention, and basically it's just putting him out of this race. So it's all kicking off under yellow. Jeremy Watkins, for all intents and purposes, he's done. And, well, we had to take an extra lap of caution there because Randy Okum also has some damage here.
And we are seeing a lot of questionable instances in these last in the latter half of this race here, Cisco, between people being parked and just I don't even have words for that. It didn't look like Watkins is really paying attention and just really slammed in the back. So Randy Okum really not having the night he really wants to, basically being a bowling pin here, so to speak, because he's getting ran into all over the place.
So we're going to get back going under green here, and Kyle's starting to kind of park some of the drivers that have been a little bit of a problem here. But green flag back in the air, and Jimmy Mullis continuing to hold on to that top spot with 1 lap 137 going into the books here, as looks like pass possibly on Jeremy Adams right now to the inside. Going underneath him, it's going to be side by side, continuing to be, it's Kuhn in the 42, and into turn 3 they go, and Adams has maintained that position where he's been, kind of that 6 to 8 range, and has been able to hold on to that despite a damaged car from earlier in the race.
Yeah, and just coming across race control, that incident with Jeremy Watkins and Randy Oakham has ended Jeremy Watkins' night as he was DQ'd for not paying attention. So Jeremy Watkins in that 90 will be forced to take it behind the wall as everybody seems to have single filed out within the top 10. Meanwhile, up towards the front, Silvestri all over the back end of Jimmy Mullis in that 24 machine as they cross the line to complete lap 139. We're on lap 140 now as racing starting to pick up here, getting some green flag laps under their belt as the 17's all over the back bumper of Jimmy Mullis. Maybe going to look towards the inside, and he does, but not thinking better of it as Jimmy Mullis was able to shut the door on the 17 and come across and then complete another lap.
And this is I called it an enduro for a reason, and that's because these guys, especially with the caution laps, are starting to get a little bit frustrated. It seems like the temperature of the race, these guys definitely frustrated. They want to get some green flag racing going, but they also have to realize they only have about 59 laps to go here once we cross the line. So these guys have to start thinking about making moves and being able to get to the front here, but they're also kind of sick of just riding under caution. So mistakes being made and starting to be a little bit draining on these guys as we've been on track here for quite a while now. So everybody's starting to get a little bit tired and not quite dopey hour because we're not in the 24 hours of Daytona quite yet, but kind of similar characteristics, Chris.
It really is, because this is really unprecedented. I think I said this at the top of the broadcast. I've never seen a 200 lap feature here at USA, let alone have the 200 laps on one set of tires. So these drivers are spent, you know, it takes a lot to work the wheel, especially with these 143 lap old tires, Cisco. So it's really hard to get into the mindset because it's the first I've ever seen. And as you mentioned, I've had a lot of racing experience, and you know, Kyle Barnes and the CEA administration still find a way to amaze me as we look towards the battle for the lead. Chris Silvestri gets a little bit out of shape there, trying to use up all the track he can, going to give a little bit of a tap to the 24, so maybe the 17 getting a little bit impatient, sitting behind Jimmy Mullis as Mullis hits the wall, gets a little bit out of shape. That leaves the door open on the outside for the 17, not really where you want to be to make a pass, but we've seen the outside work before, so maybe Silvestri can make it work.
And a rare mistake out of Jimmy Mullis, but you'd have to think that after pacing for that long, Chris, that, you know, some of these guys might get a little bit lulled and may start to make a couple mistakes. And we mentioned it earlier, but yeah, Silvestri's still on the outside, actually starting to make it work, and his teammates on the way, Derek Luchacki in the 03. So for these guys right now, it's going to be a case of can they pounce on the opportunity after Jimmy Mullis. Rare mistake out of the 24. Like I mentioned, the driver from the Peak Antifreeze series, he's going to go up the racetrack and crowd the 17 a little bit. Luchacki nearly got to the inside and stole that away, but the crowd was enough. Mullis back to the lead.
As now a shot from the 17 gets Mullis up and out of the groove just a little bit. Mullis going to try to close back down and pinch the 17 on the bottom, and he does it successfully as he's able to continue leading this race. Silvestri all over the back bumper still, and like you mentioned, Luchacki right there to capitalize as the 17 gets a little loose hitting the apron. Luchacki going to look towards the outside, but no go, the 17 says, as he gets right back up in front of the 03, and everything seems to settle out from the top three as Mullis was able to get a little bit of a gap from that mistake of Chris Silvestri.
And it looks like to me the way the 17's driving, like a little bit of antsiness. You know, he rode behind the 24 for so long, never really had an opportunity to do much with him. Well, now he's got that opportunity because we've been green flag here for a couple laps now. So he has the opportunity to get past Jimmy Mullis and is continuing, you know, to maintain that gap and try and close on the 24 machine and approaching lap number 150, and that'll be our 3/4 mark.
Exactly, 150, and that's when we start getting back into that heat race mentality here, Cisco. Everybody's been saving their tires for this moment. This is where you're going to start seeing, just like we saw in heats 1 and 2, everybody being really aggressive. You're going to start seeing the bumps, and we've already seen the bumps come into play a little bit between Silvestri and Mullis. So back to that heat racing mentality as they're coming through 3 and 4 to take 50 laps to go. So they've made it this far. They just got to bring the cars home in one piece, but we still got a long way to go to get there.
Yeah, a very long way to go here as Silvestri continues to stalk Jimmy Mullis, and that gap is closed. It's about 3/10. It's now nothing because Silvestri is right there on the rear bumper. Little bit, I think he's getting close. I think he's probably going to shunt Mullis into the corner one of these laps here, Chris, and try and move him to the outside and make that pass happen. We've seen it so much tonight already, and Silvestri is there, just waiting for the opportunity. He's right there, hasn't done it quite yet. He might be waiting a little while before he does.
Yeah, and we saw him give him a little bump going through 1 and 2 to get the 24 a little bit out of shape, but he's not really shown his full hand just yet, Cisco, as Silvestri's still on the back bumper of Jimmy Mullis, trying to make any sort of pass on him, but really playing it safe at the moment and kind of sticking behind him. Meanwhile, leaving the 03 of Derek Gluchacki in the foreground, is now they're about 5/10 ahead of that driver, so really separating themselves from the rest of the pack while also battling super hard. It just shows how much these drivers have really saved their stuff to come down here towards the end.
Yeah, no kidding. And this little battle between the 81 of Ken Moran Jr., Ryan Kuhn, and Jeremy Adams, this kind of group of 3 is a little bit split off from the rest of your field. You really only got 24 cars on track now, 25 actually in total that are on track, but only 21 or so still on the lead lap here. So the field has shrunk after we've had several incidents, and you know, the wars have gone by. So these guys starting to spread out, and you know, the more spread out they get, the easier it's going to be for this to be green to the end, as Jeremy Adams right now looking for his opportunity to get back past Ryan Kuhn. And we're still keeping an eye on those leaders right now, because Silvestri, I'm pretty sure, Chris, he's faster than the 24. He's just waiting for the opportunity to show it.
And I think you're exactly right. He, like I mentioned, not showing his full hand yet, just sticking behind him, applying the pressure, and he's doing a really good job at applying that pressure to the 24 of Jimmy Mullis, but not really going anywhere, not really pushing the issue. We've seen him throw a few shots to the back bumper of the 24, but nothing really too aggressive right now, and I think that's just to really save his stuff, to make sure he's got it all. Never mind, looking towards the inside of the 24 goes Chris Silvestri in that 17 machine, gonna have the nose there on the corner, but not going to be able to make it stick as Jimmy Mullis powers back on the inside, on the outside, I should say, to keep the lead going into turn 3.
It was close, but Silvestri, he sent it down to the apron. The problem is, you do that, you risk not having a whole lot of corner exit, and that kind of came to bit him there at the end. So the 17 falls back to second. The good news for Silvestri, though, is that is a teammate behind him of Jerry Gluchacki. Yeah, teammates will probably go out the window with 10 laps to go, but Silvestri's hoping by then he'll have the lead back and he can battle with his teammates. So right now, both drivers out of that stable doing an excellent job, but Mullis doing a better job of just playing defense.
And that's really what all he really needs to do, is just play defense. Saving tires at this moment for him is pretty much out the window, because look at how aggressive Chris Silvestri is being in that 17 machine all over the back bumper. Really hasn't let up on the pressure since the drop of the green flag, and he's even trying to use that apron and gets him a little bit loose. Does Chris Silvestri to Jimmy Mullis, using that apron to kind of turn that 17 machine, because we talked about how tight the cars get in a 50 lap run. Cisco, just imagine how tight they are right now in 160 lap old tires. I know there's been a few cautions to cool the tires down, but there is nothing to save those tires right now. So using every bit of turning help that he can, as they're both riding the apron now to try to get the car to turn just a little bit more. And Jimmy Mullis may have found something, because he's able to put a little bit of a distance on the 17.
Yeah, he might have turned the knots on a little bit, but 40 laps to go here left from the USA International Speedway. Jimmy Mullis continuing to do an excellent job in the lead, and we've been just keeping an eye on them. Meanwhile, though, there is a little bit of a battle. Ryan Kuhn, the 42, trying to make a move on the 81 of Ken Moran Jr. will have the line on the inside, makes it through 3 and 4 that time, and they'll continue to be side by side. A very good run off the corner for Moran Jr.
Yeah, Moran Jr. has been really around the top 10, top maybe 5 the entirety of this race. Started 4th, going to be sitting in the 4th place position at this moment in time, able to defend his position from Ryan Kuhn and power back on the outside. We've seen that driver do that more than once this race. He's had a pretty stable car, just I don't think he really has enough left in the car to get up there to battle for the lead between Jimmy Mullis and Chris Silvestri, but really strong showing by that 81 machine to keep up front front and stay up front the entire race. Meanwhile, the buffer between those two cars is going to be Chris Silvestri's teammate Derek Gluchacki, and he's really fallen back to Ken Morin Jr. at this time. Is now Ryan Kuhn going to maybe look towards the inside once again? All over the back bumper, thinks better of it, just going to try to play safe. Now look at Kuhn, switches it up on the 81, and now he's going to take the outside line going down the straightaway.
Yeah, side by side they continue. The 42 continues on the outside through turns 3 and 4 that time, and Kuhn doing an excellent job on the outside to get around Ken Morin Jr. And the 42 is gonna be able to grab that position, not quite clearing him though. Morin Jr. is gonna continue to try and make that line work on the inside. Nope, won't be able to do it. Ryan Kuhn to 4th.
Kuhn to 4th. Meanwhile, up at the front, Silvestri able to close back in some of that gap to the 24 of Jimmy Mullis. But now look at Mullis, able to power off the corner to cross the cross the start-finish line, I should say, and pull just that gap right back on Chris Silvestri. So not really gaining, but not really losing, just maintaining. And that's exactly what Jimmy Mullis needs to do to wind out the final few laps of this race, as it's all winding down here. I'm expecting Silvestri to try everything he's got at this point, because it takes a while to work up to that point to get past, and you don't really have a lot of time to do it. You've maybe got 2 runs, because look at the gap, look at the space in between those two cars, and now Silvestri in the wall. So definitely do not need those mistakes right now.
Yeah, Silvestri got a very big piece of the wall that time, and through 3 and 4 lost time to Jimmy Mullis. Still in an opportunity to be able to pull something off here, Chris, but time starting to run a little bit short. 33 laps to go at the line, and Silvestri continuing to track the 24 of Jimmy Mullis, and he won't go away, I'll tell you that much. But Derek Gluchacki has kind of fallen off your leaders right now, and everybody else maintaining single file here. Looks like the first battle going to be around Jeremy Adams and Gabriel Mauricio. Actually, no, it's behind those guys. It's Trent Goodrow, I believe, and Andre Fiorini going at it right now, as Goodrow's under attack from Fiorini, who looks to try and get to the inside. Not going to happen though. There's 1 and 2.
Yeah, and you just got to think of how much these cars been through. Not even the amount of damage that you can see on the left front of Fiorini, but just the tires and the tire wears. Fiorini's going to shove that 5 car of Trent Goodrow out of the way, and I mean shove that car out of the way. He was not holding back on that push, as the 07 now looks to the inside of the 5, but he has not been able to complete the pass yet, and you can see Goodrow not having it. He's going to cut off the 11 of Jim George, who got sent to the back due to radio communications, so he's able to make his way back up, but I just don't think he has enough to make it back up to the front, now sitting 14th.
No, I don't think he will, and George through 3 and 4 that time, still on the inside, side by side with Aaron Smith in the 70, and it's going to get a little bit tight as the 5 of Goodrow gives Fiorini a shot in the 07, and he wants to get by as well, now looking to the inside as they head back into turn number 3 this time, and George meanwhile trying to make the pass happen, but we missed it. Side by side for the lead, Silvestri on the inside.
Silvestri was able to move Jimmy Mullis out of the way, give him that bump, but it looks like every time we put the cameras on him, maybe Silvestri's camera shy here, Cisco, because not that time, but every time we put the camera on him, it seems like the 17 loses that run just a little bit there, Cisco, and that's exactly what happened there. Jimmy Mullis able to power back on the outside line and keep that lead, or take back that lead, because it looked like Silvestri was able to lead a few laps there due to the iRacing ticker. So Jimmy Mullis back to the lead, but I don't think that's the last we've seen of Silvestri.
Oh no, Silvestri's going to have plenty more opportunities, because they've still got 27 laps to go at the line here, and Silvestri waiting for that opportunity to make it happen here, Chris. And at this point, it could just be a 2-car battle, because everybody else is kind of fallen off. Silvestri's teammates, Gluchacki and Kuhn, they're falling back to 3rd and 4th, and they're really not in this thing about a 2nd and a 3rd back. So they'll be stuck back there for 3rd and 4th. This is really a battle between the top 2.
Yeah, and it's really come down to these 2 drivers. They've been up front the entirety of this race, and now they're showing that they've had it had it able to stay up there with saving their stuff, saving their tires, and proving that they can pull away over 1.5 seconds on their teammate, on Silvestri's teammates, Gluchaki and Kuhn. He was able to put all that gap while maintaining this hard style of racing. Cisco, Jimmy Mullis, able to put a gap on Silvestri, and this is not what Silvestri wants at all.
Yeah, Silvestri's still running out of time. It's going to be 14 laps to, or 24 laps to go at the line. I can do math eventually. But Silvestri's still there, and it's a battle of the teammates. Meanwhile, third and fourth, because Gluchaki and Kuhn, they've gone by. So Kuhn up to third now, the driver, the number 42, the winner at the Battle at the Bull Ring just at the beginning of 2018, and trying to make it 2 in a row here on these special events here at CEA. He's doing an excellent job, gets a great run off the corner, a little bit loose, but managed to hold on to it. Meanwhile, that battle, 4th, 5th, and 6th, they've kind of spread each other out. Jeremy Adams, meanwhile, in that 6th position, trying to get past the number 81, and it seems like he's been trying to pass the 81 for forever, Ken Morin Jr., and Morin's just been very, very good at defense on the outside. That outside line starting to come back into play as Mauricio actually right on the back bumper, and Jeremy Adams gonna have to play defense, chop block down into turn number 3 that time. Adams will not let that go easily.
Adams trying to hold his own as he's had a bit of a struggle this race, had some damage early on, catching the wall hard, and now has been relegated back to 6th place. Does not want it to be 7th, as Mauricio started 17th all the way up to 7th now, so plus 10 for that 04 machine, and he's looking to make it more as he's all over the back bumper of Jeremy Adams. But Jeremy Adams able to play defense well, able to put a little bit of a distance on that 04 machine as we start to look back up towards the front here. Silvestri not making too much of a gain on Jimmy Mullis, but a gain is a gain with now crossing lap 180. He's able to reel the 24 back in just a little bit, but he's got to get that car going if he wants to make a move for that pass.
The problem is Silvestri has done so much to get past Jimmy Mullis and hasn't been able to do it. I'm not sure how much tire life's actually left in the 17. He's made so many passes, dive bomb moves, bumps, whatever have you, to try and get past Jimmy Mullis. He may only have 1 shot left in that car because you gotta think those tires are screaming at the punishment here. Remember, they have not changed tires this entire race. It's an enduro for a reason, and Silvestri trying to make it to the end, but Jimmy Mullis doing a better job, at least right now, through 1 and 2.
And you can see the lane switching here. Cisco, did you see Silvestri and Mullis running up in that 2nd lane that time through 1 and 2? So the lane switching once again. We've seen him switch back and forth multiple times here tonight, as now Silvestri is able to reel that 24 back in. Maybe Silvestri has found a second wind here as he's getting closer and closer to that 24 machine, or he's just realized that the lanes are changing as he's really running that 2nd lane, able to pull that 24 of Jimmy Mullis back in, going through 1 and 2. So maybe just 1 more shot is all it's going to be for Silvestri, because if he doesn't capitalize on this run right here, he may not have a chance to do it again.
Ooh, got a little bit loose that time to Jimmy Mullis. A little bit of a slide out of turn number 4, so the 24's tire is not much better on that machine, so Silvestri may still have a chance. It did close in about a 10th or so he was able to gain because of that. And also we have to keep in mind, Chris, we haven't been able to talk about this all night long. Lap traffic could be a factor because I see not too far away from these guys. I believe that's the 4, the Firebird of Randy Yoakum up there a little ways. Yeah, it is the 4, so that could play a factor coming up here towards the end. No, Silvestri looks to the inside. Not going to be able to make it happen, though, off the corner. They make it out of turn 2 that time.
But English, Jimmy Mullis knows that Silvestri is there, and he is inching his car ever so closely to that 24 machine, as now the 17 of Silvestri has been looking towards the inside twice now. So maybe Silvestri has something in his back pocket that he can use as the laps are winding down. And you did mention the 4 of Randy Yoakum could pull a big factor into this race, maybe be used as a pick, and that's not what you want to see closing in on 10 laps to go here very, very shortly, as the 24 still is in the lead for this race. But I don't think Chris Silvestri is done trying just yet.
We do want to take a look around the field, but the problem is the gap is still under 2/10, so we just don't want to leave these guys because something could break out any moment between your top 2, and Silvestri keeps closing the gap. going through the corner, but not able to do a whole lot. So I'm hoping they don't pass each other. As we now look around Jeremy Adams, I saw him having a little bit of a battle with Ken Morin, and Gabriel Mauricio still have not been able to pass each other, despite the fact they've been so close together. So they will continue to sit 5th, 6th, and 7th. Jacob Porter, his rise has been from 10th after that restart. He's made it up to 8th, not really able to do a whole lot more. It's been kind of roadblocked in front of him. So the Napa machine, who had so much success in that heat and had it all taken away towards the end there, kind of running out of time to do so. But meanwhile, the bumpers are once again in effect, because I think Chris just gave that first shot to Jimmy Mullis. Time running out, 11 laps to go at the line.
And we go back to your strike rule, Cisco. I think that might have been strike 1. Silvestri letting Mullis know that he is there. The pressure is being applied, and I haven't taken my eyes off of this battle since you started looking out throughout the field. And as you mentioned, Jacob Porter has had a phenomenal night here, being kind of consistent. But look at the 17 getting a little bit loose, and I think that might have done it, just not wanting to push the extra mile, because he would have gotten into the corner panel of Jimmy Mullis. But that slide might have killed the run, crossing the line with 10 laps to go.
No, Silvestri still looks like he has something left, and Joachim could play a factor here. We're waiting to see where the 4's gonna go, because he is slower, easily slower than the leaders by about a second or so. So Mullis now gonna have the opportunity. He's gonna have to figure out what to do with Randy Joachim, because I'm not sure the 4's actually gonna let him go. We'll have to see that 4 Firebird, what he's gonna do. But Silvestri, I think, tried to rush the pass a little bit, Murdoch. He just wasn't, he's trying to rush the pass. He still has, you know, 9 laps to go isn't a lot of time, but it's enough. And he went to the inside when he really didn't have to. He was right there. Maybe he could have just hit him square in the bumper instead of tried to force the issue on the inside.
You're exactly right, and that lap traffic that we thought might have been playing an issue is not going to be an issue. Randy Joachim high and out of the way, so it's just going to be these 2 drivers, Jimmy Mullis and Chris Silvestri, to battle it out towards the end. And Silvestri needs to come up with something quick if he has any shot at catching the 24 once again. And it's exactly what you said. He was rushing the pass. He saw his chance to take it, and he just blew it. He didn't have the position, the entry to get that pass made, and he almost cost him and Jimmy Mullis the race there. They got really close towards the corner panel. So Silvestri still has quite a few laps to do it, just coming through the corners now to take 6 laps to go. And it looks like Silvestri is ever so slowly reeling that 24 back in. But will Silvestri have enough to complete the pass? That is the golden question.
He's got 1 more shot at it, I reckon. That's about all he'll have left. He's closing in about 23 1/100ths of a second or so, or 1,000ths of a second, if I'm doing my math correctly. Silvestri is there, but he's going to have to make this work, Chris, and he can't dive it in either, because we are maintaining the same rules from Battle of the Bull Ring. If you wreck the leader, you're going to the back. So if the caution comes out because the 17 spun the 24, he's not going to win that race. He's going to the back and is probably going to get scored at the end of the lead lap. So that, in that case, the win would once again be sent to Ryan Kuhn, who sits continuing in that 3rd position. He's got his teammate right behind him, Gluchacki. Those 2 also teammates to Silvestri. Oh, but the 17's going to look to the inside. This contact going to be made. Even up side by side off the corner. Silvestri said now's the time. He's going to try and make it happen into turn number 3. It'll be 3 laps to go at the line.
And side by side contact again between Jimmy Mullis, moving Jimmy Mullis out of the way. Goodbye. The 24 of Jimmy Mullis as Silvestri takes the lead. 3 laps to go. Mullis still there though. Can make a shot for it at the inside, and he does. Silvestri hits the 17 to move him out of the way. So now they're going to do it again. But in roles reversed as the 24 trying to look on the inside, and he does get there side by side. The 17 might let him go to try the crossover.
Mullis lost the Battle of the Bull Ring this way. He does not want to lose 2 races in a row. Both go on the wall. Silvestri's going to spin. He'll go to the inside. No caution. He'll hold on to it. And that may have just saved Jimmy Mullis. I think he'll be able to hold on to it. 1.5 laps left to go, and it all went wrong for Chris Silvestri. He tried to battle back, but no spin, no yellow. And Jimmy Mullis might be able to hold on. White flag in the air.
Jimmy Mullis just found his saving grace because Silvestri was there. He was all over the back bumper, but they both got in the wall, but Silvestri paid a little bit to more white flag coming through, going down the back straightaway. I believe Jimmy Mullis is going to be able to hold on.
Half a lap to go this time. Fuel at this point's probably out the window. He doesn't have to worry. Battle of Bullring went all wrong, but this is going all right. Jimmy Mullis gonna go to victory lane. He'll win the CEA New Year's Street Stock Nationals.
And I think that's about as a climactic as a finish as you can have, as they were really battling for it, but really got Jimmy really got saved there by the wall, and it really paid off for that 24. What a drive by the 24, showing that he can stay up there, he can hang, and redeeming himself from the battle at the Bullring is now the fireworks. I can hear him in the background from the booth. Cisco, they're all for Jimmy Mullis.
The fireworks were both on the track and they're in the air tonight here from USA International. You see the two teammates lining it up, but Jimmy Mullis getting ready to do some donuts on the front straightaway, and we'll talk to him here in a moment. But first, we're going to run you through your full race results here from USA. A little bit of a hurry up here, so we're just going to have the opportunity to talk to Jimmy Mullis. Let's run you through your full race results here from the USA International Speedway. Jimmy Mullis gets the win over Ryan Kuhn, who actually stole away second from Silvestri. Silvestri falls to fourth, and Derek Luchacki gonna finish third. Fifth gonna go to Ken Moore Jr. Sixth to Jeremy Adams. Seventh gonna go to Gabriel Mauricio. Eighth gonna go to Jacob Porter. Ninth gonna go to Justin Egan rather, and Andre Fiorini gonna finish top 10.
11th goes to the 11 of Jim George. Aaron Smith going to be 12th. Tanner Cook going to be 13th. Adam Rigo 14th. 15th, Andrew Cardinal. 16th, Paul Henley. Randy Yoakum going to finish one lap down in the 17th position. 18th is going to go to Robert Wormald. 19th, Max Cookson. Rounding out your top 20, Trent Goodrow. Trent Goodrow is going to finish 20th. 21st is going to go to Dustin Turnage. Tyler Simmons is going to be 22nd. Mason Dunn is going to be 23rd. CJ Mason is going to be 24th. 25th is going to be Rocky Boyd III. Richard Reagan Jr. going to be 26th. Jamie Watkins 27th. Garrett Strakota is going to be 28th. Will Javicki 29th. Dawson Fletcher 30th. 31st. Timothy Adams, I should say. Matt Shinosky going to be 32nd. Lee Calderon is going to be 33rd. Rounding out your 34th. Carl Field is Brian Simpson. I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to Cisco Scaramouza, who has very quickly caught up with Jimmy Mullis down in victory lane.
Yeah, Jimmy Mullis celebrating here, and we'll talk to him in a moment, but a fantastic job done by the 24 to hold on and win here from the USA International Speedway, and the K1 Speed Kirkwood Transportation entry gets it done. And I've caught up now with Jimmy Mullis, the driver of the number 24. And Jimmy, you lost the Battle of the Bullring. It was a tough one, but this time you're able to hold on and win here at USA. Talk us through it, man. That was an amazing final battle.
Yeah, I got to give a hats off to Chris for that race. That was extremely fun. He had me on my toes, but it definitely feels good to, win this week after the way last week went. And but not like that whole race. I was trying to ride. I think it was around like lap 15. I was all the way back in 16th because I knew that people were just going to be running over each other, and it was getting all clogged up. So I just dropped back, started saving, and found myself in P2 on lap 90, and then Jim got EOL'd. I don't know exactly what for, but that was unfortunate. And then from there, I was just able to hold on, thankfully.
And Chris Silvestri got back by you with about 2 laps or so to go, and you were able to just motor in and be able to take that lead back. And after that, it got physical. But that final battle with you and Chris Silvestri, it went wrong for the 17, but you were able to barely hold on to that car.
Yeah, like I said, that was just insane. He had been, giving me some shots for the past, who knows how many laps, 30, maybe even more than that. And I knew that if he was able to get around me, I could, give it back to him because that's just how it goes. And I didn't want to hit him too hard and wreck him or anything, but it moved him up the track enough to where I had a shot at him. And then I guess he was trying to move me back or something out of 4, and I couldn't get it to turn, so I plowed the wall down, and he did too. But like I said, it was a lot of fun. Awesome race. Like I said, hats off to him. That was an incredible battle.
Well, Jimmy, we'll give you the chance. Sponsors, shout-outs. Who gets it done for you and the team?
This week, we had K1 Speed, Kirkwood Transport Services on the car, as well as Lockdown Racing. Always appreciate my teammates. Obviously, this was a fixed setup race, so they didn't really have anything to do with it in that term, but they were in Discord with me and hanging out and, you know, basically spotting and just watching everything that was going on. I got to give a shout out to Novak, because if he wouldn't have told me that second line started working, then I probably wouldn't have held Chris off. That was kind of, you know, my saving grace. And as well, thanks to you guys for the great broadcast, as always, and Kyle for putting this show on.
Well, that's Jimmy Mullis. He's victorious here at the USA International Speedway. Jimmy, congratulations, and we'll see you around, my friend.
Thank you.
Well, that'll do it here from Lakeland, Florida, and the USA International Speedway. And Chris, final thoughts on that one. I'm tired. The drivers are tired. It was a long 200-lap enduro, but the ending of that was fantastic.
Yeah, Cisco, my voice is nearly shot from just the amount of screaming from Heat 1 and that amazing race to the cluster in Heat 2 that turned into a phenomenal race, and then that finish between Silvestri and Jimmy Mullis really put a cap on a great night. And you heard the fireworks go off to celebrate the New Year Nationals and just ring it in the way CEA really wanted it to, and I think that this night captured it all. Jimmy Mullis coming home with a phenomenal race, phenomenal win, and just being in the right place, right time, like you heard him say, and then his spotter telling him to go to that second line really paid off for that driver.
Absolutely, and this kicks off another whole week of racing action here on LSRTV. The Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series returns tomorrow night, and as well Tuesday night going to be the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series as they return as well for 2018. Wednesday night we're back with CEA for the Myrtle Beach Simulation Series. Thursday, of course, Upstate Racing League returning. Friday night's going to be the Super Speedway Cup Series. Saturday night doubleheader continuing with the Bootleg Outlaw Modified Series and the USR B&C Lawn and Landscaping Truck Series. But for everybody behind the scenes who makes it possible, Evan Pisoko, Laura Lawson, DJ Lyon, as well as our broadcast crew tonight, for myself, Cisco Scaramuzzo, alongside Chris Murdoch, we thank you very much for tuning in to our coverage of the CEA New Year's Street Stock Nationals right here on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Till next time, we bid you good evening. Good evening.